Thank you, moderator. Good morning, everyone. My name is Patrick Duray, Chief of the Bureau of Automotive Repair, and I want to welcome everyone to the Bureau of Automotive Repair's Advisory Group meeting, the fourth and final quarterly meeting for calendar year 2024. We're happy to see all of you here today. We have a number of advisory group members, both a mixture of in-person attendance as well as virtual attendance. Got a fairly busy agenda today, and I'll quickly go through it. We're going to have a legislation and regulations update, vehicle safety systems inspection program update. That's a new program that just launched this year. We're going to have a presentation from the California Air Resources Board on California emissions warranties in relation to the smog check program. We'll take a short break, and then we'll have some presentations from Bureau of Automotive Repair managers, beginning with the informal citation conference and remedial training programs that we initiated last year. The Cars for Schools program, I think it says CAR, there's more than one CAR that is participating in this program. And then we'll have an overview of our consumer assistance program and give you an update on some new regulations and incentives to enhance consumer participation in the program that will start in January. And then we have our typical usual handouts that we'll open up for discussion and then public comment on anything not on the agenda. And then this afternoon, we have a regulatory workshop on storage and towing fee regulations, draft regulations that we've been working on since new legislation gave us authority to regulate regulate in this arena with respect to charges by automotive repair dealers in relation on storage and towing fees. And this is our third and hopefully last regulatory workshop before we put it forth before the Office of Administrative Law and open it up for formal public comment and review by all stakeholders in a more formal process. But again, these workshops are trying to mitigate or eliminate some of that comment period and work out some of the issues in advance of the regulations being formalized with the Office of Administrative Law. I want to do some introductions before we go forward with the agenda. We'll start with advisory group members here in the room, and then we'll turn it over to advisory group members who are attending virtually via WebEx. This meeting, I should say, before we start those introductions, is always has a dual component to allow people to participate both in person and virtually through the WebEx virtual platform that we use. We also record the meeting, so if anyone who wasn't able to participate today wants to go and see what was said or review the whole meeting, that will be posted to our website sometime probably next week. And that's through the webcast that we do with each and every advisory group and all public meetings for that matter. So let's start with introductions to my far right, Megan.
Hi, Megan McKernan, Auto Club of Southern California.
Anthony Bento, California New Car Dealers.
Jack Moladonna representing the California Auto Body Association.
Good morning, Dave Kusa, Automotive Service Councils of California.
Hi, Bud Rice, California Automotive Business Coalition.
And I will ask our moderator, who I also want to thank for helping us with today's meetings, both the advisory group meeting and the workshop today, Ann Fisher from the Department of Consumer Affairs. Ann, could you open it up for introductions for advisory group members who are participating via the WebEx?
Absolutely. And let's see, it looks like Ruben Parra, you're ready to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. My name is Ruben Parra, and I'm here representing California Automotive Teachers.
Good morning, Ruben.
And then as far as the others, I'm not sure if these people are staff or not. Here's Matt Webb.
Yep, Matt's an advisory group member. Yep.
Matt, if you can unmute yourself, you are welcome to introduce yourself. There should be a mute and unmute button at the bottom of your WebEx. There you go. And Matt, we're not hearing you. If you've got a headset or something, you may be able to pull down that drop down and take a look at what options you have. And while we're waiting, let's see, we've got Lindsay Robles. Lindsay, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Lindsay's a member of the public, not on the advisory. Yeah, I think
My
she's.
apologies.
I think she's planning to attend the advisory group. Excuse me, the workshop, the regulatory workshop this afternoon.
All right, fantastic. And Timothy Hatcher, were you able to get your muting and unmuting?
Yes, Timothy Hatcher with Automotive Maintenance and Repair Association.
Fantastic.
Good morning.
And then is Ryan Pierini, or is that an advisory group member?
Yes.
Wonderful. Let me make you a panelist. Now you have the privilege of unmuting yourself, Ryan.
There we go. Hi, guys. Ryan Perini with the California Automotive Wholesalers Association. Thank you.
Wonderful. And then we have someone named Michelle. Is this a advisory group member?
Not that I know of. No.
All right. Thank you so much. It looks like that is all the people that I know of.
Okay. If we come across any others, we'll open it up for some introductions mid-course during the agenda. Was Matt able to get unmuted there? Yep.
Let's see.
Matt Webb.
Let's try one more time. And Matt, I see you are on a mobile device, so it might be behind the three dot other options, but the mute and unmute should be available. One moment while I try and promote him again. There you go, Matt. Okay, I see you're unmuted yourself and then muted back again, but we still didn't hear your voice.
Good morning, everyone. Matt Webb from the
go.
Preventative Automotive Maintenance Association.
Wonderful.
Glad you could make it, Matt. Thank you.
Good to be here.
Yep. All right, we'll move on with a couple more introductions. Want to introduce the deputy chiefs of the Bureau of Automotive Repair, without whom my job and others' jobs in the Bureau of Automotive Repair would not be as, I won't say easy, but at least as smooth and helpful as they have been all throughout my career at the Bureau of Automotive Repair, certainly in these last few years. We'll start with Clay Leak. Clay Leak oversees the smog check program and our information services programs. Let's see, Bill Thomas with the Field Operations and Enforcement Division. And Linda Jansen, who's Deputy Chief over licensing, consumer assistance, and administration. Did I get them in the right order? And with us, with Linda today, where's Cole Gandelman? Cole just started this week on Monday. He's not a deputy chief, but he reports directly to Linda right now. He's a new manager in our licensing program. So, you know, all those calls and emails that, yes, Jack, I'm singling out you, that come to me regarding licensing issues with business changes, going to corporate officers and things like that, that there's a little confusion about sometimes. Cole's going to be your point person. Darren Dumas also is there. He's more on personal license side and the STAR program. But business licenses, I think, mostly is what comes up when we have issues, certainly with LLCs and corporations and some of those nuances to licensure with respect to those business structures or corporate structures. Cole will be the expert in just another day, right? By the end of the week. That's as long as we're going to give you, Cole. And then these meetings wouldn't be possible without all the support of individuals who are both in the room and virtually. I've already introduced Ann Fisher, who's the moderator, working for the Department of Consumer Affairs, to help us with the WebEx virtual platform that allows folks to attend remotely. We have Bryce Penny, also with the Department of Consumer Affairs, who's our webcaster. Did I get that right, Bryce? Yeah. And you'll see him bopping around the room from time to time to make sure our viewing and listening experience today is as optimal as possible. And then Zach Richardson, I think most of you know Zach is supports all of us in the executive office and is responsible for all the information that gets posted to the website relating and scheduling getting the agendas finalized and the presentations. Just works almost endlessly. There's always a couple of weeks after each meeting that we go, okay, we got a little bit of time, but then preparation for the next one begins soon after we end the meeting. So he's pretty much around the clock or around the calendar working on the advisory group. So thanks to Zach. I think that's it for introductions. I know there's a lot of Bureau of Automotive Repair employees in the room as well, some of whom are here for presentations, so we'll introduce them as they come up. But right now we'll get into the agenda, starting with our legislation and regulations update. You should know these two individuals. They've been with us for a little time, Holly Helsing and Kayla Shelton, our regulation coordinators working on packages that go through the Department of Consumer Affairs and also monitoring legislation that affects the Bureau or is related to the Bureau. So who's starting today? Good morning. Ayla is.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, we'll start with the first slide. Today's presentation will be rather short. Legislative season's all over, so now we gotta wait for the sands to shift and everything. Next slide, please. Thank you. So September 30th was the last day for the governor to sign or veto any bills. Most bills will take effect on January 1st of 2025. I'm sorry, statutes will take effect in 2025. Next slide, please. Great. So we did have a couple bills get signed by the governor. We have AB 1901. This was the total loss claims. And then SB 1526. This was technical cleanup to some of the statutes there. SB 301 was vetoed. This was the zero emission aftermarket conversion project. It would have been a 2-year bill, but like I said, that was vetoed. Also, SB 615, which was a bill on a 2-year bill regarding vehicle traction batteries, that was also vetoed. And then there was one bill that died, and that was AB 2188. That was a bill regarding pollution control devices. So now we'll review, back one, please, thank you. So we'll review the 2 bills that did get signed by the governor. So AB 1901 was the total loss claims bill. It was approved by the governor and filed with the Secretary of State on the 22nd of September. This is the bill we have previously discussed. It allows insurance companies to release a total loss vehicle in a salvage pool to be released to the owner or lien holder. That person or the lien holder will have a specified time frame to retrieve the vehicle from the salvage pool. If not, the title is assigned to the salvage pool. I don't believe we have any questions because we have discussed this one prior. Okay. And then a really easy one, SB 1526. This was the technical cleanup bill. It was approved by the governor and filed with the Secretary of State on the 22nd of September as well. This bill will update the term Bureau approved educational certifications to Bureau accepted educational certifications. So the main change there is approved to accepted, and that's to be more in line with the policies and procedures of the Bureau of Automotive Repair. Do we have any questions on any of those 2 bills that were passed, or any questions on bills that were vetoed or died?
Or any bills that we weren't tracking or didn't make this list? I think we captured them throughout the year, but if there was any last minute surprises or things that we should take note of, please point them out to us. Yes, Jack.
Jack Moladano, thank you. The only thing I want to mention is the bill that was vetoed, SB 615, the Allen bill. I do know that it will be coming back next year. The author's office has already indicated their intent to bring it back. Just want to give you a heads up. That's electric vehicle batteries. Thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out.
All right, these are regulation package that were adopted this year. The Vehicle Safety Systems Inspection Program, which became effective on March 27th. The updated smog check inspection equipment and station requirements, which is our DAD 2.0 package, became effective July 1st. And the Consumer Assistance Program incentives will become effective on January 1st, 2025. The next slide, these are the pending regulation packages we have that we're currently working on. And starting with the smog check readiness monitor limits package on the next slide, it it removes outdated subdivisions and prohibits a vehicle from passing an OBD2 inspection if the vehicle's OBD2 system reports not complete readiness status. For gasoline-powered vehicles, model years 1996 and newer, and diesel-powered vehicles, model years 1998 and newer. This package was approved by agency yesterday and filed with OAL, and the 45-day comment period will be from November 1st through December 16th, and notices will be sent out prior to that. The next package was also approved by agency yesterday and will have the same 45-day public comment period. This is our tear down disclosure requirements for ARDs. And this adds and amends definitions relating to disclosure requirements. It clarifies estimate work order requirements and requires ARDs to include payment amounts of third-party payors on an estimate prior to the authorization of work. Yeah, and again, that one will be the comment period from November 1st through December 16th. And the third one is the storage and towing fees package, which I believe most people are pretty familiar with. I won't go into all the details now because, as Chief Pat said, we're having the workshop this afternoon. But basically, it brings together existing laws governing storage and towing fees under one unified regulatory section. Fees must be reasonable. It reviews when storage fees may be charged and where the vehicle may be stored. And it also makes clear that an ARD must provide an itemized estimate and invoice for storage and towing fees and post the towing and storage fees access notice, as well as their current daily storage fee rate. But again, we'll go into great detail on this this afternoon. And that wraps it up for our pending packages. And we do have quite a few others in the works, but these are the ones that have made it far enough so far.
All right, thank you very much for the update. And we had several packages that got approved this year. 1, 2, 3, which is kind of phenomenal. A lot of work goes into those, and to have 3 packages approved in 1 year, it doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a lot of work, and always I'm feeling appreciative of the process after getting through it. So nice to see those 3 packages get through. And we'll have an update certainly on the Vehicle Safety Systems Program implementation and the Consumer Assistance Program incentive increases this in today's agenda. Let's open it up for comment from any of the advisory group members related to anything legislative or regulatory on this presentation. Bud Rice.
Couple things. First off, I wanted to compliment the group in terms of the things that did get approved. The transition seems to be fairly smooth, both in terms of the end user customers and for the shops in terms of what are in place. It's been very smooth so far. I just wanted to kind of, and it's possible that you have this, and I'm just speaking out of turn here, so forgive me. But in terms of the tear down disclosure requirements and the storage fees charged, I know we're still talking about that. It would be helpful if there was a form that basically looked like you guys would like it to look in terms of here's the fees and here's the things and here's the terminology so that shops could look at that and absorb that into their system. What shops try to do is they try to look at the wording that is said and then try to figure out what does it mean and how do I put it into some kind of a form or document that I can use with customers. If it was possible, almost like a write it right for these things, it would be super helpful to shops then who could then adopt that almost in its entirety and maybe change it from a creative perspective. So it has the logos on it and all the stuff on it, but it does follow the priority and the wording that is acceptable. I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Excellent suggestion. In fact, you hit the nail on the head. The Write It Right is probably the most ideal location for us to capture these changes and give an example or sample of what we have in mind with some of these disclosures that are contained in this regulatory package. So great idea. That would have been my response had you not said it. So thank you. Any other comments, questions from advisory group members here? Any advisory group members virtually have any comments on the presentation on legislation and regulations update? Nothing? Okay. Let's open it up for any comments on this presentation from the attendees in the room. Public members, anyone? Doesn't seem like anyone is going to comment on this presentation. Moderator, could you please open it up for public comment through the WebEx platform?
Certainly. So if anyone on WebEx would like to make a comment on the presentation, you can look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand, or you can look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment into the text box and click send. And we do not have any call-in users. Are there any comments on the legislation regulation presentation? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
You guys got off easy today.
The last one.
They're going to come back. Well, yeah, in January. Yeah, it's the end of the year. We're all softening up. Yeah, I know. All right. Thank you very much. Good presentation. Yep.
Thank you.
Do we, let's see, Vehicle Safety Systems Inspection Program Update is our next presentation from Matthew Gibson, who's in the Bureau's Executive Office and is actually formally known as the designee for informal appeals on citations, smog check, Automotive Repair Act citations and unlicensed activity citations, as well as STAR suspension appeals. So that actually is a title in our law, designee. So he acts on behalf of it's the chief or designee. So that is one of his current roles, among others. Anyway, he also was very, very instrumental and was our point person to get the Vehicle Safety Systems Inspection Program implemented. That began as soon as the authority in law a few years back was given to us to develop a program. We went out to fill a position for a 2-year assignment to get that up and running. And it actually went a little over 2 years, but Matthew was the successful candidate in that recruitment effort and did a phenomenal job getting that program up and running and implemented pretty close to the schedule envisioned by the legislature. I think we missed by a couple of months the adoption of the regulations, but that was pretty amazing in and of itself. So thank you very much, Matthew, for all the work you did on that and to give us a presentation of the final phase of implementation of the 3-phase approach that we had laid out for this program, this new program.
Thank you, Pat. So as Pat said, I'm Matthew Gibson, Program Manager in BAR's Executive Office. and I'm here to give what I believe is going to be the last implementation update for the Vehicle Safety System Inspection Program. So as you know, BAR used a three-phase implementation approach to transition from the brake and lamp inspection programs to the Vehicle Safety System Inspection Program. The first phase, which began licensing vehicle safety system stations and technicians, occurred on March 27th when the regulations were adopted and became effective. The second phase started on July 8th when we started allowing licensed safety systems, licensed vehicle safety system stations to actually start performing the inspections. And the third phase, which sunset the brake and lamp inspection programs, happened on September 27th, 6 months after the effective date of the regulations. Okay, the next slide. Can I get the next slide? Oh, you're working on it?
That was
Oh, that was the next slide. I'm sorry. It's not because it's not in front of me. Anyway, all right, I'm bad. My bad. Thanks. Anyway, so on September 27th, the brake and lamp inspection programs ended. Brake and lamp station and adjuster licenses are no longer valid. Stations and adjusters are no longer permitted to issue brake and lamp certificates of compliance. BAR will collect and refund all unused brake and lamp certificates of compliance. And thanks to the help of our DMV partners and their policy unit, BAR is able to monitor brake and lamp certificates of compliance that are being submitted to DMV after September 27th. Can I get the next slide? Oh, maybe I went too far again, or you're moving faster than that.
Just trying to keep up.
No, I appreciate it, Zach. So, all right, so until March 27th, 2025, or 1 year after the effective date of the new program, brake and lamp adjusting stations whose licenses were in good standing on March 27th of 2024 are still able to forego the application fee to become licensed safety system inspection stations. Brake and lamp adjusters whose licenses were in good standing on March 27th of 2024 are still able to forego the application fee, the required ASE certifications. Of course, those certifications will be required on the renewal, and the initial technician licensing exam. Next slide. So as of September 27th, BAR had 450 safety system inspection stations in the VID. As of October 12th, last Sunday, we actually now have 466 stations in the VID. Not all 466 stations are actually cleared yet to perform inspections. There's some number of them that are inactive, waiting to pass their initial licensing inspection. The amount of stations that are actually cleared to perform inspections is closer to 400, but we still have 20 applications for stations pending in licensing, as well as 59 other applications that were deficient that licensing has been working through. As of September 27th, we had 587 safety system technicians in the vehicle information database. As of last Sunday, we actually have 598. We still have another 45 pending technician applications. And we actually have 63 applicants that are waiting to pass their technician licensing exam. Some numbers have already and are in the VID, but still there's others that are waiting to take the exam. I should say, or I want to say thank you to our licensing unit, specifically like the managers, Michael Villarreal and Darren Dumas, as well as Rebecca Guile and all the application processors. As of March 27th, since March 27th, we received 1,320 applications, and that's in addition to the applications that they would just routinely receive. And so I just wanted to say that I greatly appreciated their efforts in getting through this additional workload. So as of September 27th, our stations had performed 5,622 inspections, or they initiated the inspections. Stations had issued 4,515 certificates, and they had failed 229 vehicles. When we analyzed that data, we found that 93% of the vehicles that failed the inspection actually had multiple causes of failure. Now, you don't need to go to the next slide yet, Zach. Not that it matters, but I would just.
That's why it's 929, even though so that's the.
929 failed
failures, so multiple failures on some of these
on
vehicles.
9 out of 10 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I looked at, and so we have updated data since obviously September 27th. So as of October 12th, so last Sunday, we actually have had 11,785 inspections initiated. We've had 9,377 certificates issued. We've had 2,069 vehicles that have failed the inspection. And we've calculated the inspection failure rate around 17.5. It's like 17.6%. And that doesn't include the 404 vehicles that either aborted, that were aborted out of the inspection or timed out. Okay, now can I get the next slide?
It's really picked up since September 27th.
Well, yeah,
with no longer having the safety net of the brake and lamp programs, right?
Yeah, so actually, as you know, since the sunset on September 27th, the safety net of the brake and lamp inspection program has been removed. So all of these inspections that are necessary have to be done at a safety system station, and it doubled in 2 weeks. Not exactly evenly. The first week after the sunset, so starting on September 28th through to the first weekend in October, there was 2,826 inspections, and last week up until October 12th or last Sunday, there was 3,337 inspections performed, or initiated, I should say. Okay. Next slide. Oh, you're already there. Cool. So unlike brake and lamp paper certificates of compliance, BAR can see how many certificates are issued and how many vehicles fail. BAR can also see the causes of those failures. So as of September 27th, the most common failures were for recalls, open unrepaired recalls. I guess I should be more specific. I imagine I may get questions about that. The next one was lighting systems. The next one after that was brake systems, then tires and wheels, and then passenger compartment. As of last Sunday, the 12th, when I started looking at the data for those, some of those have changed. So now the most common cause of failure is lighting systems. The second most common cause is recall. The third cause is now tires and wheels. And on the PowerPoint, I did put in the most common cause of failure for tires and wheels. Obviously, it's like Morin tires or the TPMS lighted being illuminated. I didn't go into the most common cause of failures for lighting system or brake system because those systems already existed and they fail for the same reason that they have already failed. And then that was third. Fourth is now brake system inspection failure, and passenger compartment is still the fifth cause for most common cause for vehicle safety system failure. All right, next slide. Next slide. So for information about the safety system inspection program, please visit our website. We have a specific page related to the safety system inspection program for consumers and for repairs for licensees. There you will find for licensees the steps to obtain a safety system station or technician license, and a link to the vehicle safety system inspection manual, the station and equipment checklist, information on the biometric enrollment for technicians, and also tutorial we have on YouTube for performing the safety system inspection. And that's it.
All right. Questions from advisory group members here in the room? Jack? Sorry.
Thanks, Matt. On slide 5, and I know you threw out updated figures, but just based on the September 27th figures, I sort of calculated here that you've done 50, or at that point, 5,622 inspections that were initiated, or no, 45, inspections initiated, and then there was 929 that failed inspection. I did a little division. It seems like that number was about 20% of the vehicles that are failing. Mm-hmm. And I was just curious, what is it what was the brake and lamp? What was the failure, just brake and lamp? What was the failure rate compared to now to the new program? Same, less, more?
Unfortunately, there's no way for us to know.
You don't know.
And therein lies some of the problem with our paper certificates. I don't know. All I know is how many we sold. And based on calculations that from what we sold is how much we project will, as far as we can project in the future how many inspections are done based on the number we sold, but how many of those inspections were failures, we don't know.
And the beauty of the new program is that it's a electronic certification process now, where we didn't have that previously. It was a paper certification process. We sold the certificate books in books of 50, right? Which we still do through the electronic process. But they went out the door, but they never came back to us. So we never knew what the pass fail rate was.
Okay.
So that's the great thing about this program.
Yeah, no, you got the data. And the last thing, I did hear from a few folks that DMV is still, I don't know if it's their forms, they keep on saying that you got to get a brake and lamp inspection. And I don't know if the communication or they're just behind. They need to get up to speed. I don't know if you've heard that as well.
So I know that DMV, and we have been working with them closely as we've been transitioning between these two programs. And I know that their counter software system is updated and has transitioned out of the ability to accept, well, will be out of, not able to accept brake and lamp certificates when they're not supposed to. Having said that, yeah, it looks like their software on the registry, the documents they get for vehicles who are trying on vehicles for that people are trying to revive to a salvage title still say that it requires a brake and lamp inspection. We are aware of that. And we have information we are working to put out to the industry about the fact that if it says that, even to consumers too, that if it says that, it really means safety systems because brake and lamp doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
So, and DMV is working to correct it.
Okay. And the last question that I've been asked, are there enough stations technicians to do the job now? Because I think you probably, in the state, to be able to adequately, inspect these vehicles.
So our goal is to have a minimum of 500 stations. The reason we want to reach 500 stations is because in looking at the amount of lamp and brake certs that have been sold over the last several years, and the number bounced around somewhere between 230,000 to 250,000, we calculated that we would need about 500 stations to handle that amount of inspections. We haven't yet got to 500, but it looks like we have enough applications and people waiting to get or to pass their initial licensing inspection to achieve 500. And then from there, we believe we will have enough and we should have enough. And we've had enough so far. But honestly, it would be better if we had more than what we think would be the minimum number. Because and there are some of the areas of the state that we could use more stations than others. So it's kind of a yes answer.
Yeah. How many, just a final question. How many brake and lamp stations did you have prior to this program?
So it dropped off significantly after we announced the program. So I remember I gave presentations about what we were doing with vehicle safety systems. And at the time on our website, we used to have a counter that said how many lamp and brake stations there were, but it was individually counting the license types. And so based on that, we had 800 lamp and or brake stations, not necessarily lamp and brake. And in 650 of those were smog check stations. By the time we got to the implementation date of this program, it kind of like started falling off a cliff. We're not to the same number we were at. I don't know how long it's going to take, or if we do get back to what we had on lamp and brake. But we know that from what we sold, as far as certificates, we need to get a minimum of 500 so that we can carry the load.
Yeah, thank you.
Our biggest concern with the drop off of lamp and brake on September 27th was having coverage in certain areas of the state. Matt and I think some others personally reached out to some of these stations that were applicants and smog check already had the equipment, and we did a forgot the technique, but a mapping of this of where our licensee population for the new program was and where we were feeling deficient, and actually did a really good job covering those areas. I mean, just think of some of the more remote areas of the state and making sure that we had those coverage in those areas. I think we're pretty well covered. We haven't heard of any issues yet. Keeping fingers crossed. I did want to just a clarification on this because Jack, I just was confused a little bit when you answered it. So as of September 27th, we had initiated 5,622 inspections, 4,515 certificates issued, 929. What is that? Is that failures or is that vehicles or failure reasons?
Failed inspections, specific inspections. There's multiple failure reasons.
So that's not vehicles. So doing the calculation, just how many vehicles failed, you'd have to get that. What's that other number?
So 929 is the amount of vehicles that failed.
That is the vehicles.
Yes, that is the number of vehicles.
I thought you said something like a smaller number. Okay.
Oh, well, what I would say is,
okay.
Well, we calculated it around 20%, which is probably accurate. Okay. It was accurate at that.
That
time.
is vehicles.
Right now, it's lower based on our calculations at 17.5%. Given the way that the program is designed, I'm not surprised the number would be dropping, and it would probably continue to drop, seeing as how large portions of this inspection can be performed before they even enter information into the BAR's safety inspection system. So If they find a failure, it's possible it would be repaired before they ever initiated the inspection. And as they figure that out, those inspection failures might continue to drop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just clarifying, and that's good that you did that for me. Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Kusa, David.
Thanks, Pat. Morning, Matt. The recall part of this seeming to be an issue. I've got one member that I talked with from ASCCA that if there are recalls on the vehicle, it seems difficult to find out beforehand. So he's got one example where NHTSA showed 4 recalls and the dealer said that it was only 1. He's had a situation where there were outstanding recalls and the dealer wouldn't perform them because it was a salvage vehicle. So there's an issue. And then, it's as I understand it, you're going to go through the inspection, assume everything on the inspection is okay, and then the certificate it fails because there's an outstanding recall, an open recall. So it passed the test, right? The inspections, and maybe it's got an emission recall, right? So, should it fail for that? I mean, obviously, we're not going to, that's up to DMV to decide when to issue any sort of registration because there's an open emission recall or an open safety recall unrelated to anything we're inspecting for. Right. So the dilemma is your car did great. Your car passed. It's a wonderful car, yet you failed. And then what? Right. So, and this is a question that came to me after reading this. So everything passes, emission recall gets completed. Does the car have to be completely re-inspected at that point? Or does it become approved?
You're going to take this in pieces. There's a lot there.
Yeah. Sorry.
Because first off, the safety inspection system receives the recall information from the same place that the smog check.
Right.
Yeah, it's from Carfax.
Mm-hmm.
And so if somebody wanted to see what recalls were open on it, they can just literally go to the Carfax website and put in the VIN number or the license plate, depending on however lets them search, and they can find the open recalls that they being Carfax has received, and it should be in line with what NHTSA has.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be how you could figure out if you have open recalls and what open recalls there are. On our tutorial, we literally have that in there.
Okay.
Because we believe it might be a good idea for even informing consumers who need the inspection to look themselves prior to bringing the vehicle in, see if they have an open recall so they can get that issue resolved on their own before they bring it in. Because if you fail an inspection, and I got to get to the inspection portion in a second, but I'll leapfrog over this. If you fail the inspection because of a recall, you will then have to have the recall performed in order to pass the inspection ultimately, because it won't be cleared unless that information is inputted by the dealership who performs the recall and then finds its way into NHTSA and ultimately Carfax, and then reports back to the system that it's no longer, it's a repaired recall, it's not open anymore. And that takes some number of days, if not a week. If a vehicle fails for recall, ideally what we should be telling them is that they need to get the recall performed and let them know that they can look at on Carfax, and Carfax will let them know when it has cleared, and then the vehicle then can come back to the shop and have it re-inspected. If you're wondering if a vehicle becomes passing after it has passed an inspection except for the recall, no, there's no partial inspection on the safety systems. It's an entire inspection because it's a point in time inspection. I don't know how long the vehicle is going to take to get a recall performed. I know that it's going to be some number of days before it can have a recall performed. Therefore, because it's a point in time inspection, it just has to be redone again from beginning to end.
Okay.
Now, related to the inspection itself and specific to recalls, the way we designed the system, and I should say thanks to Encore or Voyatech because of all the work that they did in putting this software together and putting on our analyzer so that we now have it. We set it up in such a way that the recall information from Carfax is asked for as soon as the vehicle information is inputted into the analyzer before anything else. And so if there is an open recall that is going to cause the vehicle to fail, the technician will know that it's going to fail before they input any other results. The reason this could be a problem is because if you choose as a technician, well, I say this, we set this up in such a way that we want technicians to find the most efficient way to do the inspection. It's not prescriptive like smog check. You can do all of it before you ever put anything in. But if you don't look to see if there's any open recalls, you won't know it until you start trying to put everything in, because that's when you'll find out that there is an open recall. The point is that if there's an open recall, the analyzer will tell the technician before they start inputting results, and they could abort the inspection at that point if they wanted to, or they can continue to input the inspection results and then fail the vehicle. It's up to them. My understanding is that recalls are supposed to be performed by a dealership, whether the vehicle is a total was a salvage vehicle or not. I don't know why somebody would think that it's not okay to do a recall if it has been deemed a total loss and is now a salvage title. And I also wouldn't know why the information in Carfax wouldn't match what the dealership says. Having said that, if I had a consumer who found that, I would probably have them print out the Carfax list of open recalls and take it to the dealership so that issue can get resolved.
Okay. Yeah, good information. Yeah. And then, yeah, because the dilemma we're running into is, if it's, and it sounds like that's solved, right? If I know the recalls, so from a process point of view, check recalls first, right? So that you don't do your lengthy inspection, have to charge for it, and then, oh, sorry, you failed, I have to charge you again, because it's not really a free, it's not a feasible free reinspection such as smog check is. So to avoid from a business standpoint, to avoid conflict and having the customer have to pay twice, find out first if there's recalls. And it's good that it's going to be first up on that inspection process. So good. Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. One other thing, just on recalls, let me just tell you that if a vehicle manufacturer does not report recalls, the vehicle will not fail the recall, right? Portion of the inspection. If a vehicle has open recalls for which the manufacturer has not reported any repair, as in it's a no remedy available, it still will not fail the open recall because there's no way to repair it. And if there are no recalls, obviously it won't fail the recall. The only way it will fail is if there is an open recall and it has not been repaired. So it will show up as a recall that is unrepaired.
Yeah. Okay. Because I can see Takata airbags, right? I mean, I saw the Durango that we're waiting for the passenger side, right? It has an open recall, but it's thus far no solution, right? So theoretically should not fail for that.
Well, no, actually, if you have a situation where there is a remedy available and the parts are
well, that's the point. They're not, right? Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I'd say if they're back ordered, that car is held up because the manufacturer has reported a repair, and you're not going to be able to perform the repair without the parts.
Right. The part's not available. Yeah.
The car's going to fail the inspection.
Okay.
And I can't fix that.
Okay.
That's just how the system is going to be designed until the back order parts are.
I mean, because it's been unavailable for 10 years.
I have several questions, and I on this.
I will defer.
Yeah, because this has been a perennial issue for our members, the new car dealers, the inability of dealers to obtain parts. Specifically, the Takata airbag is a great example. There is a recall that's there is a fix that's available. There's the replacement airbag, but the airbags are back ordered in many cases years. The amount of airbags. I guess first of all, when we're talking about failures in this context, are we just talking about emissions related recalls? Or are we talking about any type of safety recall, even if it's not an emissions related? So like the Takata airbag example, would that produce a failure even though it's not emissions related?
Yes.
Okay. And then, so if there's a fix available, but say the part is 2 years back ordered, does that produce a failure?
It would, right now. It will.
And would that result in the customer not being able to register their vehicle, or consumer not? So they can't operate effectively. They have a worthless car until the part is available. Is that?
Yeah, the car that DMV, we can't complete the registration process because they won't be able to pass the safety system inspection.
Which means they can't drive it on the roads.
Well, yeah, except short of getting the temporary operating permit, you're right. They won't be able to move on this.
So the state of California is taking the position that through this program, that the millions of Californians, or the hundreds of thousands at least of Californians that have been affected by the Takata airbag recall, there's many folks that are still without a fix for these parts. They can't operate their vehicles. That they essentially have a pile of metal sitting outside, sitting on their front, their driveway or whatever, that they can't drive on the public roads until.
I mean, it's for vehicles that have been deemed a total loss that they're trying to revive, right? As opposed to
so that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to point out that
Yeah,
very limited number of vehicles that this is affecting.
Well,
Yeah.
but it's a
Again.
little off topic, but any emission recall, right? My daughter's going through it with the Jeep, right? It's not a salvage, but
Okay,
she's going through that with
that's
a
the
Cadillac
point of
converter.
it. Yes, that's
Yeah.
I guess the point of
Yeah.
confusion that like
Okay.
is any emissions related recall would in the non-total loss context would trigger an issue with registration potentially.
I believe so, but that'd be under the smog check.
Yeah, that's like the smog. Okay, okay.
That has nothing.
Yeah,
That's a-
purview, yes.
yeah,
Got it.
That's not about this.
And so is there a reason why you're using a slightly different question or different line of questions that is there a reason you're using Carfax instead of just NHTSA directly?
Well, because we use them. The answer for me in this program is because we were already in the process of using Carfax for smog check.
Smog.
Because we already get all the recall information. It was just automatically being printed
Got it.
on the VIR, not the VSR, but the VIR, and although it wasn't a cause of failure for the smog check inspection itself. And so from my perspective, it was easy just to transition that over into vehicle safety systems. I don't exactly know why they chose Carfax, but I'm sure they had a good reason.
So it's just a commercial company, that Carfax, and our members do report errors on Carfax reports, not infrequently. And in general, when we advise dealers to check the recall status, obviously the manufacturers have their own portals that the dealers can check. But NHTSA has that you can just type in VINs or batches of VINs directly into NHTSA's website and get the results straight from NHTSA, which seems to be, instead of working with a third party that may or may not be, essentially taking NHTSA data and may not have the most up-to-date information possible, might be worth considering just going straight to NHTSA.
Fair enough. I think two things about Carfax. One is that we're not individually putting VIN numbers into the website in order to check each vehicle. We're not allowing, it's an automatic process. And so we have an API with the Carfax to get that information. And the second thing is I'm pretty sure Carfax actually is getting the information directly from the manufacturers and not through NHTSA at all. But since Clay has joined us, I'm sure Clay can enlighten us and I appreciate that.
So my understanding, and it has been a while since we've kind of dusted that particular contract off, but my understanding is Carfax is under contract by the Global Alliance for Automobile Manufacturers, and they are actually the kind of the broker of that data for NHTSA and for the OEMs as part of a contract that they were awarded. So we're not able to get that data from anybody else, and our understanding is they are kind of the source of record. That's the only way we can obtain that data.
That's fascinating. It's
Yeah.
also slightly concerning, but
Yeah.
but yeah, thank you for that. And is there? I just wanted to. This is more of a comment rather than a question, but the ability of a dealer to perform a recall often, dealers generally are happy to perform recalls if they can because they make money selfishly, like from the manufacturer, they're reimbursed to provide that service. So if there is an issue with a dealer, and this is kind of an open statement for everyone here, that if you are encountering an issue where a dealer is not performing a recall, don't hesitate to reach out to us. It may be an issue that the manufacturer has something in their system or that something flagged, and we could try to work directly with the automaker to resolve it. So it's just an open invitation that if you are encountering those issues, feel free to reach out to me directly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you very much. And I appreciate the clarification as well.
Thank you, Clay.
Questions, comments? Yeah, Bud Rice here.
Real quick. I know you thought this was going to be an 8-minute presentation for you.
No, man. In all fairness, I didn't. At this point, I'm just used to sitting in the chair.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. But you did say this was going to be your final visit, I think.
Oh, I believe this is, I'm not talking about this again.
Yeah. We got to give something else to do now. Okay. So a couple of things. One of them is Jack kind of went over my one thing about the counts and the number of stations, that kind of thing. You might say, and Pat might say, we don't do this, but I'm just going to say it anyway. But I'm surprised that BAR doesn't do some kind of a outreach / marketing to demonstrate to shops that there's a benefit to them being in the program. And hey, have you ever considered being this? Have you ever thought about that? Here's what it might mean to your customers. Some kind of a pitch that you might be able to make to help increase the numbers. So, I just thought I'd say that.
I also don't think that we would say we don't do that. I believe we actually have done that related to Smart Check at time as far as reaching directly out to Smart Check stations where we needed them. And it's something we have considered in some areas of the state related to safety systems where we feel like we could have better coverage.
Okay.
So thank you though.
Second thing was in regards to the recall, both Dave and my friends over here were kind of drilling down on that. And I had the question of, does any and all recalls, and apparently the answer is yes, any and all recalls, the answer is yes. But when we were talking about these problem vehicles that now a guy has this thing sitting down in front of him, there's got to be some kind of a waiver in play where somebody can say, well, here's what we know. There may be a 6-month delay, so we're going to give you a 6-month waiver. There has to be some method in place or something to help those people, because even if you say, well, it's not a big problem, well, it is when it's your car. When it's your car, it's your only car, then it's a big problem to you. So I just like to see, hope that there was some method for that.
It's a good point, and I appreciate it. And I think that it's something we're definitely gonna have to take back and discuss. Just keep in mind that if it's an open recall for which no repair is performed, it will not fail, and that it will be recorded on the VS, the safety system, the report. So the consumer will have that information. But literally what we're talking about is allowing a vehicle out that for which a recall repair exists. Anyway, but yes, I was thinking through it as I was talking. We'll look into it when we get back.
Great, thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you, Bud. Other questions, comments? Moderator, any advisory group members who are attending through the WebEx platform?
And group members, you're welcome to raise your hands. And I see a raised hand from Ruben Para. Go ahead.
Hi, Matt. Just a quick question on schools that participate in the Smart Check inspection training program that have the DAD. Will they be able to simulate the vehicle safety inspection procedures?
Yeah, we have a sandbox environment like we do for Smart Check. I would imagine that they would or should be able to.
Okay.
I don't know the answer off the top of my head.
That's my only question. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ruben. Any others? Okay, not
I
hearing
don't
any.
see any others.
We're going to open it up for public comment first in the room here. Not seeing anyone raising their hand. How about public comment on the WebEx?
If anyone would like to make a comment, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand, or you may look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment into the text box and click send. Are there any comments on the presentation? I do not see any request for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I know you said this might be your last on this, but we might do something in a year's time
I have to say
frame.
that I thought, well, last on the update on the implementation, so I should be more specific. It's already implemented. So
You're
I
right.
don't think I have to update on
It
that.
wouldn't be implementation. It'd be
And I
a,
imagine there will be additional presentations in the future, especially as we try to expand the program into other areas as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, well, potentially, yeah, we've talked about expansion of it into other systems. ADAS, obviously that won't be in a year's time frame, but we'll have to open up the regulations again to do anything beyond what we're currently doing. But yeah, we might see you back or someone back here in a year to give us what have we seen over the last year since Break and Lamp completely dropped off. So anyway,
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, our next presenter is with the California Air Resources Board, Jerry Ho. Jerry here?
Hello.
Oh, Jerry's virtually. Okay, I was thinking.
Yeah,
he was,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
I cannot make it here.
Welcome. I'd forgotten you were going to be attending virtually. I was looking to see if you were in the room here. And let's see, you have, we meet quarterly on an executive level with our friends at the California Air Resources Board. And recently I attended a quarterly executive meeting where they shared with us California emissions warranty provisions, and I thought it was really enlightening and something that should be shared with a larger audience and asked, and they very graciously agreed to come and present at our bar advisory group meeting. And so I appreciate the folks at California Air Resources Board for doing that. And Jerry, you specifically for coming today to give us a presentation on California emissions warranties and the relationship to the smog check program. So welcome.
Thank you to give me this opportunity to present this topic. Good morning. My name is Jerry Ho. I work for California Air Resource Board. Our office is located in Riverside, California, the Southern California campus of ARB. And today I'm going to present the current California emission warranty regulation and how the different type of warranty coverage can enhance or help the consumer for the California Smart Check program. Next slide, please. Hello. Okay. So I'm going to briefly go over the California emission warranty regulation. The part that specify the vehicle manufacturer's responsibility to cover repair for a vehicle that failed a smart check. The first regulation is California Code Regulation 2030A. It mentioned the manufacturer shall warrant to the ultimate purchaser that the vehicle well for a period of 3 years or 50,000 miles, pass an inspection established under, Section 44012 of Health and Safety Code. And the second one is CCR 2037. This one mentioned the owner of vehicle which failed inspection during the period between 3 years, 50,000 miles and 7 years, 70,000 miles may choose to have the vehicle repaired at a warranty station and free of charge if the failure was caused by a high price part. So the definition of a high price part is defined as a replacement cost of a specific part at the time of the certification exceeding the predefined cost limit set by California Air Resource Board per each model year. So for example, the current model year 2024, the cost limit is $740. And this is including parts and labor together. And this cost is adjusted based on consumer price index. So many years ago when the thing started, I think the high cost limit is $300. So now it's $740. So the next regulation is CCR 1962 and CCR 1962.2. Both of this regulation extend the partial zero emission vehicle and transitional zero emission vehicle, their warranty period extended to 15 years or 150,000 miles, except for the battery, hybrid, the power, energy storage device for traction power, those are covered for 10 years, 150,000 miles. Next slide, please. Okay, so I think most of the people here are pretty knowledgeable about the Smart Check program. So I'm going to quickly go over this slide. So for gasoline power vehicle, hybrid and alternative fuel vehicle, those vehicle are required, 1960s, 1976 and newer are require a small check. But there are exceptions. 8 model year and newer do not require biannual small check. And the 4 model year and newer vehicle do not require change of ownership small check. And for diesel vehicle, 1998 and newer, with the gross vehicle weight of 14,000 pounds or less, also requires small check, but there's no model year exception for diesel power vehicle. Next slide. Okay, so for this table, I'm trying to put all emission-related warranty in this page. We will start with the California emission warranty. So for all emission warranty, parts will be covered for 3 years and 50,000 miles. And as I mentioned earlier, certain high cost parts are covered for 7 years, 70,000 miles. And the next one is the PZEV or TZEV warranty are covered for 15 years, 150,000 miles. But the battery is for 10 years, 150,000 miles. In addition to California emission warranty, there is also a federal emission warranty. In most of the case, we wouldn't use the federal warranty because they are less desirable than the California warranty. For example, their basic emission warranty is only covered for 2 years, 24,000 miles, as compared with California, which is 3 years, 50,000 miles. But they do have a extended federal warranty, only covers 3 parts, which are catalytic converter, electronic emission control unit, and the onboard emission diagnostic device. Those 3 components are covered for 8 years, 80,000 miles. So this warranty coverage is better than California. So in certain circumstance, and vehicle owner can take advantage of this warranty coverage, but just need to be aware that for medium duty vehicle, there's no extended warranty coverage from this federal coverage. So for medium duty vehicle, there's no 80,000 miles coverage. Just want to be clear here. Next slide. Okay, here's the table. Basically on the left side is all the emission warranty I just mentioned. On the bottom, here's the vehicle age. So unfortunately, I guess the emission warranty regulation was implemented a long time ago. So I guess it doesn't really help in a lot of cases for the current small check program. But we can go over this quickly on how this warranty may be able to help. So most of the gasoline power vehicle, their small check is not due until 8 years. So at that time, most of the warranty already expired, unless you own a PZ or TZ, which is still under coverage for 15 years, 150,000 miles. So other than that, at that time, most of the warranty already expired. So if you buy a car, used car, and it's over 4 years, and then you still require a small check. So if you fail, and you may be still covered by California high cost emission warranty, and also the federal extended emission warranty, which is 8 year, 80,000 miles. If you have a diesel vehicle, since there's no exception for the vehicle age, I guess by the time you have the small check, you still cover under most of the emission warranty coverage. Next slide, please. So like any regulation, there are some exceptions which may prevent vehicle owner to get the coverage they need to pass the small check. Next slide. So these are some of the exceptions. It may not cover all of them, but I just want to mention some of the most common one. California Code of Regulation 2035. California emission warranty applied to California certified vehicle and has to be registered in California regardless of their original point of registration. So this one, we encountered some of the complaint because sometimes people bought vehicle from out of state and they trying to register in California. But if they fail the small check, unfortunately, because their vehicle is not registered in California yet, so all they can do is to apply the federal emission warranty. They won't be able to enjoy the California emission warranty at that moment. So it's important the car has to be registered in California. And the second exception is CCR 2037 mentioned the manufacturer is liable for expense involved in detecting, correcting the small check failure. But unless the warranty station demonstrate the part failure was caused by abuse, neglect, or improper maintenance. And also, I think if the car is tempered, those things will not be covered. And the last one, which we actually received quite a few complaints recently, is about the vehicle readiness monitor. When there's a vehicle owner cannot pass a small check because the vehicle readiness monitor are incomplete or not ready. And under that circumstance, the vehicle owner is required to drive the vehicle for a few days or even weeks to allow the OBD system time to set the readiness monitor. And the manufacturer or dealer will not cover the mileage accumulation due to this type of small check failure. Next slide. So if a vehicle owner failed a small check and the dealer or manufacturer refused to cover the repair under the California emission warranty regulation, the consumer can contact California Air Resource Board helpline. Our helpline trained staff will assist the vehicle owner with screening question. And if they cannot resolve, they will forward to my section manager, Jeff Wong, who is also attended online today for further assistance. When Jeff received the complaint, he will forward these cases based on, which auto manufacturer this vehicle is, and he will send it to the staff who handle that manufacturer. And usually, if we determine the vehicle should be still covered under the warranty, and then we'll contact the manufacturer for further assistance. Usually that will, the issue can be resolved in a few weeks. So we encourage people to, if there is a problem or issue, they can contact ARB for help. This concludes my presentation. Thanks for listening. And if you guys have any question, please let me know.
All right. Thank you very much for Jerry and Jeff, if you're there as well. Thank you both for being here today, and Jerry for the presentation. We'll open it up for any questions or comments from advisory group members. One here. Yeah, Dave Kusa.
Jerry, thank you. Clarification on the high-priced part. Is that, and you said it's like $700 now?
$740 for model year 2024 vehicle, and ARB published these things in the manufacturer advisory correspondence. So it was adjusted by consumer price index. So every model year has its cost limit.
Okay, so it's different for different model years. And is that part only or part and labor?
Part and labor.
Part and labor. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, this is we do have a lot of complaint related to high cost part. Most of the time you can find those high cost part lists at the owner's menu. Manufacturer do list them. Those parts which cover for high cost. But sometimes if the parts is not listed there, but it does cost a lot. So that's when, they usually, if the dealer refuse to cover, they will come to us for help. So we will make a decision case by case under that circumstance.
Thank you. Additional questions, comments? We'll go to the WebEx moderator. Could you see if there are any advisory group members who wish to make a comment or have a question?
Certainly, advisory group members, you do have the ability to mute and unmute yourselves. Are there any comments on the presentation?
I do.
Is that Ruben?
Yes, just real quick, Mr. Ho, where did you say was the list of the price per year that we could access for the high priced vehicles limits?
Yeah, it is you can find it in ARB website. It's called MAC, and I think they publish every 2 years. I have
MAC?
MAC, yeah. So you actually can find, there's a table I think lists the cost limit for every model year since I believe, hold on, let me see, it's 1990 or something. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. So you can find those. Those are public information. Yes.
Okay.
Jerry, I'll have you work with Zach from our office to get the link, and he'll get it distributed to our advisory group members.
Okay. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, Ruben, or anyone else attending virtually from the advisory group? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to public comment. Anyone in the room? Yes.
Is this slide deck published on?
Yes. Yeah. It's under the bar advisory group page. Other questions, comments? Okay. Moderator, could you open it up for public comment on the WebEx?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on the presentation, you can look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand, or you can look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment into the text box and click send. And we do have a raised hand from someone logged into WebEx as Lawrence Wales. Lawrence, I'm going to send you a request to unmute, and you will be able to unmute yourself.
Hello?
There you go. We can hear you.
No, I thought you said someone, I thought you said you had someone. No?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Hear me?
Yes.
Very quietly.
Very quietly. Okay, let me go. I have a customer, I do smog inspections, a customer with a partial zero emissions vehicle that had less than 150,000 miles, less than 15 years. The Ford dealership said that his part was not covered. It was a part in the transmission, but it did, as far as I'm concerned, the manufacturer said it affects emissions because it made his vehicle fail the smog test. Cost him $1,600 at the dealership to fix it. Should that have been covered under the partial zero emissions vehicle warranty? It was an oil pump in there that commanded the light on. And that's what the code said too. And like I said, it made him fail the smog check because, as you know, transmissions can affect emissions.
Yes, I can. Yeah, we actually have quite a few complaints related to transmission for a lot of auto repair mechanics. They thought the transmission has nothing to do with emission, but whenever there's a check engine light on, our position is as long as failed the small check and based on our regulation, because you remember our regulation said if the PZEP and TZEP are covered for 15 year 150,000 miles, they have to pass that the test. So we if the consumer has that kind of problem, I encourage them to contact us. We normally would deal with
Yes,
manufacturer.
I told him to contact the Bureau of Automotive Repair to try to get all his facts together as best he could and contact the Bureau of Automotive Repair with those. I did not tell him to contact the California Air Resources Board. Now I know I need to tell him to do that. I also recommended he watch this for this reason.
Well, yeah, we do get that type of complaint forward by BAR staff as well. So we work together as a team. BAR, ARV, and the DMV. We work pretty closely on this type of issue.
Great, thank you. I'll give him this. I'll text him the warranty questions page.
No problem.
Okay, thanks for your time. Should I put my hand down now?
Sure, either you can or I can.
Okay, lower
Thank you.
hand. And
All right. Thank you so much. And I do not see any other requests for comment. Last call for raising your hand by clicking on the hand icon. And I do not see any other requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, thank you, moderator.
You're welcome.
All right. I believe any other questions, comments? I think that's it. Thank you, Jerry and Jeff, for being here today. And like I said, Zach will reach out to you, Jerry, to get that page, that link to that one page that we can send to our advisory group members.
All right. No problem.
Thank you so much. Have a good day. All right. Our next item on the agenda is a 15-minute break. I'm sure all of us could take that time for making a couple calls, using the restroom, whatever you need to do, stretch your legs. So we'll be back it's 10:54 right now. I'm just going to do this at, let's be back at 11:10. We'll start up at 11:09, 11:10. Moderator, are we back on the recording for the?
We are.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. I've learned during the break that another advisory group member is in attendance, and I want to call attention and have him introduce himself. Jeff, are you there? Jeff Peavy?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Jeff. Just kindly introduce yourself and your organization.
Sure. I am Jeff Peavy. I'm Vice President of Industry Relations for ICAR, the Inter-Industry Conference on Auto Collision Repair. I am past Collision Industry Conference Chairman, as well as Global Ambassador for the the International Body Shop Industry Symposium. And I oversee several collision repair advisory groups as well.
Thank you for the introduction and glad you could join us today.
Thanks.
All right, we'll move along in the agenda. Our next presentation is Patrick Lutfi from BAR's Enforcement Operations Branch, and he's going to give us a Lutfi. Some say Lutfi. I've heard Lutfi. He can tell us officially here today. He's going to give us an update on the informal citation conference and remedial training programs that were implemented following the adoption of regulations that took effect on July 1 of last year as a result of authority provided to us in legislation that the legislature passed and sent to the governor to sign into law.
All right, good morning, everyone. It's Patrick Lutfi. Any pronunciation's fine. I go by Patrick. Pat goes by Pat to differentiate, but other than that, it doesn't matter on the last name. Yep. All right, so thank you, everyone. Good morning. I'm going to give a brief overview and then update on the citation informal conference and the remedial training programs. So if we could go to the first slide, please. I got paper in front of me since it's off to the side, so hopefully it doesn't throw me off too much. But so Assembly Bill 471, which was authored by Assembly Member Lowe, was signed into law in September of 2021. Along with the vehicle safety inspection program that was previously discussed, some changes to our applications and what we collect in them. The passing of this bill also created the framework necessary for BAR to expand on existing law to pursue issuing citations for violations of the Automotive Repair Act. It also allowed for the establishing of the Informal Citation Review Conference, which consists of a 3-member panel to review any informal appeals of such citations for the Automotive Repair Act. And that 3-member panel consists of a member from the motoring public or consumer, someone from the automotive repair industry, and then someone from BAR. There's other various roles that help administer and facilitate those citation conferences, but that's the 3-member panel. It also created the remedial training program, which allows a cited ARD to prevent disclosure of such citation on the Bureau's public website. Currently, any administrative actions, citations are displayed under the web license lookup if you were to look up the license. And by taking that training, it allows you to prevent disclosure of that. There is some criteria as long as that criteria is met. And I'll make a quick note that the passing of the bill gave us authorization to allow for that completion of training to prevent disclosure up and through July 1 of 26. As of right now, when July 1, 26 comes, that section or that subsection of, I believe it's 9882, will be repealed. However, Bureau's aware of this. We're monitoring it. I don't necessarily see any reason that we would not continue with the program. It doesn't appear to be abused or anything to that nature, but it is something that we're monitoring and will continue to pay attention to. So, program objectives. So these programs became effective July 1, 23, with the goal of improving industry standards and enhancing consumer protection. The citation remedial training programs aim to provide ARDs with opportunities to resolve minor violations quickly and easily through a means that we look at as educational, not punitive. At the same time, the program does focus on improving an ARD's understanding of BAR regulations, which we believe over time will lead to better compliance across the industry and ultimately greater protection for consumers. Next slide, please. So since these regulations have become effective, BAR has issued a total of 63 citations to ARDs. As we've stated previously at BAG meetings and workshops, especially around the concern of BAR going kind of wild with these and issuing a ton of them, I think the numbers show that we've taken the intended approach that we always did to vet every potential citation before issuance. You know, we are very fortunate to have a very robust review process at BAR through the branch that I oversee. So we are looking at all this closely to make sure that the way that we roll this out and citations that are issued are appropriate, that we've done the necessary steps of progression and discipline before just going straight to citations. So of these citations, they've addressed a variety of violations within the Automotive Repair Act. Some of the most common ones, which are noted here on the slide, are failure to produce records, failure to meet estimate invoice requirements, failure to properly document additional authorization, and as well as failing to adhere to specific trade standards. Next slide, please. So the citation review panel, as I mentioned earlier, it is comprised of 3 representatives. One from BAR, which we've elected to keep someone outside of enforcement, as a side note. Someone from the public and automotive repair industry. So the panel gives an ARD a chance to informally appeal any citation that they receive for violations of the Automotive Repair Act. And by having this 3-member panel, it ensures that the citation appeals are evaluated from multiple perspectives, which we believe creates a balanced and fair review process of that citation appeal. Since the program began, we've held 2 citation review conferences to date. The first took place on June 27 of this year, where 4 citation appeals were heard by the panel. And the second conference occurred on August 8th of this year, in which 4 additional appeals were heard before the panel. There are the next conference, I don't know the exact date. I know it says here it was tentative for November 7th. There was a conflicting scheduling issue, so it has been pushed out a week to the following Thursday. I believe it's going to be the 14th. So just to make note that that's an error here. Since this was posted, that did change, but it is scheduled for that day, and there are a few currently on the agenda, but for updates on that, you can go to the public website to get that, which I'll show later. Next slide, please. So the informal continuation on the informal appeal process, the panel will hear the matters, and their recommendations are then reviewed by the BAR chief or their designee. Something that Pat had mentioned earlier, designee that is designated by him to oversee or to render decisions on the recommendations provided. Also make note that ARDs are not satisfied with the outcome. They still have a right to request formal administrative hearing if they wish to pursue the matter further. Potential outcomes. So with the recommendations, when they hear the matter and any information provided by the respondent or the ARD that had received the citation, they do have the option to either affirm the citation as is or make a recommendation to affirm the citation as is, to modify the citation, which could include increasing or decreasing the penalty associated with that citation, if any, as well as dismissing the citation completely. And then that's voted on. Once there's a majority vote, that recommendation is forwarded to the designee, who then renders a decision with all information made available to him or her. Next slide, please. So the remedial training program. The remedial training program provides, as I said earlier, a corrective pathway for ARDs cited for minor violations. And ARDs who opt to participate in this, they can complete a BAR-approved training course to prevent their citation from appearing on BAR's public website. And this program is designed to be educational, like I mentioned earlier, rather than punitive. It's an opportunity for them to educate themselves, gain a better understanding of the regulations in place, hopefully specifically those that they failed to adhere to that resulted in that citation. And again, fostering a more long-term compliance from ARDs. So I think it's important to note with this too, that the individual, when it says that the ARD must complete or complete the training, who's actually able to complete that training? This is a question that came up. Sorry, this is something I was asked to throw in here. We do get some confusion as to who is allowed to take the training or represent the ARD in taking that training. And it is someone that has to be listed as an owner or a controlling individual of the business. And that includes an RME. So with a lot of the updates to our application recently, going to the digital platform with the result of Elm, we've clarified a lot of that. It gives an applicant now the opportunity to give the full list of all controlling individuals of that business. So as long as someone is listed with us, either through that initial application or through any change requests, any subsequent change requests. If they're listed as a controlling individual of that business, they are eligible to take the training on behalf of the ARD for that citation, to prevent the disclosure for that citation. But it does have to be one of those individuals. It can't be a service writer or mechanic or technician that may have been party to, but it has to be one of those controlling individuals. So just to kind of make that clear. So to date, a couple other things. It does have to, they can't take it more than once in every 18 months. And then there are a couple of carve outs that we don't allow for non-disclosure. Fraud, there's 3 specific ones. It's fraud, gross negligence, and it's false misleading, but specific to the issuance of certificates of compliance for the vehicle safety program. Those are the 3 carve outs that you cannot prevent disclosure for. So to date, BAR has received 18 requests from ARDs to enroll in the remedial training program. Of those, 8 have successfully completed that training within the timeline allowed. 9 have not, and 1, as of the other day, was still in progress, or he was still within the time frame to complete that training. They are allowed a total of 60 days from the issuance of the citation to complete that training. So when I say they failed to complete it, they failed to either enroll or take the class and then provide proof of training. And we do check, we don't, we do try to give some benefit. We go look to see if training was taken. We have the ability to look up with the provider that we have to see if training was taken for that ARD. And with those, so there is a 50% that have neglected to take that training when I say failed to. And I think it's important to note too, this is, it's not something that's difficult to sign up for and take. It's an online, for what's approved right now, it's an online course, self-paced. We've actually had several of the ones that have completed the training. They request the remedial training and actually furnish the certificate of completion at the same time that they took it, rather than sending in the request and then taking the training after the fact. So it can be done fairly quickly. Just to make note, I don't think that the numbers actually justify the ease of taking the class. It's not that challenging to take, at least from the experience we've seen so far. Next slide, please. So looking ahead, BAR, we remain dedicated to the success of these programs. As I mentioned earlier, we'll continue to monitor. I don't see a reason not to continue with the one personally, but we are committed to transparency and fairness in how all of our citations are issued, how they're reviewed, and the process overall. We will continue to hold these citation conferences on an ongoing basis as needed. It's not something that's scheduled without any appeals, but as appeals come in, we will schedule and hold those accordingly. And I think with the last bullet there, I would encourage, and I think we all encourage, that ARDs take full advantage of these programs and what it actually offers to them. And with the last slide, for any more information as to future conferences or information on these programs, if you go to our website, information is available there. So that's it for the presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Patrick. I'm sure there's a few questions around the dais here and maybe even virtually on the WebEx platform, but we'll start here in the room. Jack?
Thank you, Patrick. Just a couple of clarifications. So on the remedial training, you said they have 60 days to take the training from the date of the citation. There was some confusion because I've had folks call me and they say, well, I want to appeal, but the appeal process can take 40, 50, 60 days. Does that mean I'm prohibited from taking training? I've been telling them no, but I wanted to make sure we clarify that.
Good question. And so to answer that, the 60 days is from the point in time that the citation is issued, unless there's appeals. Appeals basically pause any timeframes until such appeals are completed, and then timeframes start again. And we do send out notifications in all those instances. So let's go down the informal appeal process, for example. If someone were to informally appeal a citation, once that informal appeal process is done, the outcome is then conveyed to the ARD, along with additional information on how they can still take training, how they can appeal that formally through an administrative court. So all of that is constantly conveyed to them with the new time frame. So it is 60 days, but those timelines reset based on how they approach it.
So in other words, they come in, they do the appeal, they wait for a decision. I don't know how long that takes, but once that decision is made or whatever from the appeal, they have 60 days thereafter to take the course. Am I accurate?
Once they receive the new decision?
Yeah.
Yes, that is correct.
Whether it's affirmed or whatever, they have 60 days.
Unless the decision were to completely dismiss it, then there's
Yeah,
nothing
yeah,
to take
right,
training
right,
for.
right.
But yes, they would have an additional 60 days. So we have 90 days from receiving an informal appeal. We have 90 days to hear the matter.
Okay.
So we try to schedule those as far out as possible. Some may be shorter timeframes because we try to get as many into the same day as we can to take everyone's schedules into consideration. And then upon the completion of that, and once a decision is rendered by the designee and then conveyed to the registrant, they're given additional timeframes to either appeal formally or take the training, or both. They can appeal formally, and based on that outcome, they can still proceed
Okay,
with training.
I just wanted to clarify that. Now, in terms of the appeals panel, I've listened to a couple of them, and what just to listen as a public member, I've noticed that when the member comes in and to try to present, they're in a left field. I mean, they start talking about the customer, and it's more of like what's and the whole long story. They're not really focused on the citation. I know you tell them that, but I've noticed that a big part of the problem is that they're in left field. They're not focused on the citation. So I think that hurts their case. I don't know if anything can be done to improve that process and to help the individual. At least they're better prepared to present in front of the appeals panel.
I just have a question that relates to that. I was just wondering how that individual is selected. If are there certain criteria, or is it if you have received multiple potential applicants, how is that determined?
So
I think two different questions.
Multiple questions. I'll try to answer. So that you're asking for the panel members themselves?
Yeah.
So we were accepting applications at one time. I think we still will accept some. We have a full roster of individuals to rotate through right now, and we're not having a super high demand for them based on the numbers you can see. But those applications were vetted through the executive office. They were reviewed. We made sure that there was no conflict with those that were applying, or anything that would be concerning on our part. Same reason we elected to use bureau staff that were outside of enforcement to kind of keep that separation. We made sure we did the same thing with consumers, that a consumer has no ties or relationships to the automotive
But
industry.
there's no education or anything like that is.
As far as the process, the citation review process, so we do put the panel members through, it's minimal training, but we do have some various presentations. We've had tons of conversation. We've done some mock walkthroughs, anything that we could to possibly help prepare them for that. And what their role is in that situation. We do have an individual, Kazarov Matsoyan, who's our currently right now is the one that's conducted all of them. He's he administers these the conference itself, and he's there to provide guidance as well, provide input, try to help the consumer on track when they do get off, which I'll get back to your question in a second. But so we do our best to prepare them as much as possible for the day, the situation, what their role is in it. Although to what Jack was talking about, yes, I agree that there's some areas for improvement. It is still a new process that we're learning and trying to figure out how to navigate through. But, David's had an opportunity to sit on our panel. We've had some conversations as well. But we are there to answer whatever questions we can to make sure that panel is adequately equipped to do what they're expected to do in that setting. So hopefully that answers what you were asking.
And just a point of clarification, Jack, you're concerned that
when the ARD comes into appeal, they're appealing the citation. It's very specific what they're appealing, like production of they're not producing documents. They need to be talking about why they didn't produced, to say, well, they came in, the BR came in and they wanted them right away and I was busy, or, those kinds of reasons, rather than the customer. I mean, the ARD comes in and they start talking about, about the customer and the defect, completely unrelated to the issue.
On the ARD.
Yeah, they're not. Itself. Yeah, the ARD, I guess my point is the ARD comes in there. This is based on what I've seen and heard, right? Because I'll listen, I'm thinking, what's he talking about? Why is he so off base? I mean, he's got to be focused on the citation, and it could be, the ARD didn't pay attention or whatever, but I just feel like they're not getting a fair shake because they're not being able to explain why they didn't, produce documents, or why they didn't follow specific trade standards, or whatever the issue, whatever the citation's for. That's my, my observation. And I know, and I appreciate, Patrick, that you guys are always looking to improve. I know this is a fairly new program. I just want to make sure that the ARD, when they appear, they give their best shot at what they're, what they're arguing, or at least their position.
So I know that there's a lot of comment in there, but also some question. I want to make
Yeah.
sure that I at least address or speak to what you were talking about. So we do recognize that the ARD needs some additional guidance in navigating through this process as well. They're not showing up with representation. And I can tell you from experience, this happens in full-blown admin hearings. If someone shows up without representation, they don't know where to start or what the process entails, what they're supposed to do. And there's been many instances where ALJs will do their best to still guide them through the process as best as possible, but we're not there giving legal advice and whatnot. So, but with that said, this is not intended for them to have to go seek legal counsel to come in. It's giving them an opportunity to save cost, save time, come in and represent themselves and provide information. We do send out plenty of documents that explain what the process is, what's expected of them. Granted, not everyone reads through everything that they receive sometimes. I know that there's been several instances where you send out documents and, well, if you go to this page and read this paragraph, what does it mean to you? Sometimes that helps. And we do offer that as much as we can, but we can only offer assistance where they reach out for assistance up to that point. And then during the day of well, let me back up for a second. We've actually been trying to deal with and navigate through a lot of challenges with this process too. So let me explain. The fact that remedial training can be taken after the fact to prevent disclosure, we're conducting these conferences in a public setting that is a public record. And if we're still going to try and allow for non-disclosure of a certain item, we have to be very careful as to what's articulated during that open setting. There's conversation that takes place in a closed session because it's not supposed to be open to the public comments where the panel members can discuss and go over some more details of the citation itself in rendering their recommendation. But because we're trying to navigate through this non-disclosure, but still give a fair shake, we are trying our best to continue to give the ARDs as much information as possible to make this, to have this be the benefit that it's intended to be for them. But at the same time, without stripping them of their opportunity or their option for the non-disclosure, right? To not throw too much information out there. So there have been some discussions. We are looking to expand a little bit on how we introduce those. We've been looking at potentially even additional correspondence before the day of, maybe even just a summary page of what to expect or what's expected of you. But I do understand that there's a confusion because, well, I don't want to say confusion, but they come in and these citations are resulting, at least the ones we've heard so far, are resulting as from a rep's interaction with the ARD while working a consumer complaint. So they come in thinking that the consumer complaint is the basis of the citation, when in fact it's the violation that was found as a result of the consumer complaint that resulted in. And we do try our best to convey that, and CAUSE has done a great job of, we don't want to cut them off either. It is their opportunity to speak. And that's even been some of my direction to them, is give them an opportunity to speak a little bit. If it goes too far, try to recorrect them and bring them back to focus and re-explain to them the intention of why we're there, what the purpose is, to provide information for the panel to take into consideration. And we are going to continue to try to refine that process as best we can, with all of that kind of taken into consideration. It's very complex, trust me.
Thank you.
I've lost a lot of sleep over this as we've been prepping for
No,
it.
I understand and I appreciate it's a new process and we're going through and trying to improve it. So, but I do appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack and Anthony and Dave, one of our what is it? Informal citation panelists. Yeah, panel members.
Yeah, so to answer kind of Anthony's question on the preparation. So as a panelist, I do feel prepared to act in that capacity. We did a couple of mock workthroughs, that kind of thing. And then, to build on the preparedness of the cited party, unintended consequence of open meeting laws, right? That last thing, we don't want, as a shop owner, right, that, potentially could get cited. I certainly don't want that made public before my opportunity to say this should be gone or take my training, because we went through that years back with frivolous lawsuits and such, right? So there's the problem. So how do you prepare the ARD, without full disclosure on these things that could end up in the public, right? So ultimately, the way I've seen it is we end up waiting for them to say something about the citation, right? Now they've made it public, right? It's like if I'm a panelist and I start asking questions about the citation, well, I just made it public, right? And it's not supposed to be yet, right? So it's a dilemma. As far as the ARD side of things, as government affairs chair for of ASCCA, we are going to put together a webinar, on how to be prepared for this. As an association member of ASCCA, and I believe Autobody and Cal ABC, right? You get opportunity to talk to Jack of, if you get my advice when somebody gets cited, if they're one of my members, call Jack, right? Don't call anybody else, call him, right? And you can talk to me, but he's the legal guy, right? And as an ASCCA member, I would defer. I wouldn't be on that panel, right? I mean, for obvious reasons. So I could help guide that person too. So, as my position as a panelist, and Patrick and I have talked about this too, in that first review panel, completely unprepared because they can't tell me what the citation is, right? So once we get into closed session, because Jack had brought it up, it's like nobody asked this guy any questions. That's why, it's because I didn't know what was going on, right? Because if you make it part of the agenda, right, BAR can't send the 3 panelists the information privately, right? And then of course there's also the opportunity for me to make that public, right? So can't make it part of the agenda because then it's public, right? Can't inform me in the open public forum. So obviously it's public. So how do we do that? We had talked about maybe a preliminary closed session where we could see the citations, before the open meeting so that as a panelist, I'm more prepared. And then, with that being said, in the second meeting, much more prepared, right? So it's a process. I think BAR is doing a great job. The open meeting part of this was a bit of a curveball. Nobody really expected that.
Yeah, we actually initially prepared for a whole different approach. And when it was determined that it was subject to open meeting, we had to scratch everything and kind of start over. Not completely, but we were going to have a more individual. We intended initially having an individual one-on-one setting like we currently do with smog check and unlicensed citations. Those are one-on-one with the individual that was cited and the designee. You can obviously have a lot more conversation in that type of setting and more guidance, open guidance, because you're not open to the public. So we are trying to carefully navigate through this. I appreciate what you're saying, and I'm the first one, in all fairness, I thought it was going to stumble a lot more than it did. I do think that it went through very smoothly, other than the fact that, yes, there was a definite disconnect as to, for the panel members, which I had apologized to all of them for, and we made some, from that one to the second one, made some changes, and we have some additional changes in store already for the next one that I'm hoping will continue, like I said, to refine that process and make it a better experience for everybody as it was intended.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so, and then last item, the controlling individual. So more clarity on that. And so I do some coaching, consulting. I had a shop, California shop. The owner lived in Virginia, and he's the only controlling party at the time. His service manager, right, that manages the day-to-day operations, is here in California. So if the shop were to get cited and they wanted to appeal it, would that designated service manager fill that controlling individual, or has he got to fly from Virginia? Well, I know it's online, but I mean, does he have to take care of it, remotely like that? Because the remote part is fine. My point is that it would be useless for him to take remedial training. Right. I mean, he owns his own different business completely. He's an investor in this, it's an investment opportunity, right? Having him take the BAR training, the remedial training, would be useless, right? I mean, it would be better off for the shop and the industry if the manager took it, or whoever caused the citation.
The BMP sections that refer to the application and what information is required to be provided by the applicant actually states that they're to provide us with the list of all controlling individuals that either directly or indirectly run. I'm going to misspeak on the exact, but it does define the controlling individuals, and it's required that it's provided to us. As I had mentioned, the changes that we made to the application, especially going into the digital platform with Elm, has allowed us to expand on that and ensure that we are capturing that information. So with that said, that controlling individual could potentially take the training for the ARD as long as they're listed with BAR as a controlling individual. If it's unknown to us and all our records show is that individual in Virginia, I think you said, is the only controlling individual of that business, then that is the person that has to take the training. Granted, the training is done online. They wouldn't have to travel here to do it, but if it's something that they don't want to take the time out of their day to do, and they have someone else in the business that can, that is in that capacity, again, they can, as long as they're with, noted as such within bar records.
Got it. Cool. Thank you.
Additional questions? Bud?
Okay, at the risk of having the room laugh at me, okay? I think that the answer is going to be some kind of a hybrid. That's really what I think, okay? I've also attended these things. And one of the things that happens in the very beginning is that the person from bar says, you're here because you were in violation of 1.283.zz, whatever, and then that's all they say. I think it would be nice for them to say the code and then what it was. You didn't give the customer a written estimate. Okay, whatever the thing is, because most of these things, when you say the code, there's like 10 things are in there, but it's this thing that we're getting on you about, okay? And then in many cases, the person has not had a chance, going back to what Jack was saying, they haven't had a chance to air their frustrations as to what has happened to them. So they just start dumping. That's what they do. When I say hybrid, in the old days, and I don't think we've had this for a while, but there used to be, and I can't remember the term, but it was like there was an industry representative at bar. There was a term for it. And I can't quite remember what the ombudsman. There you go. Thank you. And the purpose of the ombudsman was to help represent the industry with something that they were having issues with bar. I think that's what that's what they were there for. In this environment, I almost think that whoever is sitting in the seat, they have to be able to change hats. Okay, so they might tell the guy what he did wrong. He's going to unload, just like Jack is saying. If there was a way, blank slate, okay, if there was a way to say, I understand you're frustrated. Did you do it? Just, did you do it? And then if the guy says, well, yeah, okay, then you got to put on your bar hat. You got to say, all right, if you did it, here's the ways you can now work around it. You can go to training, you can do, and you lay out all the things, but you help him fix it by saying, here's how I can get you back on the good side, get you off the bad list, get you back on the good list, and here's the things you have to do. If the guy says, nope, I did not do that, you put the hat on where you're going to help him and help represent him with bar because he didn't do it, and you're going to have to say, give me some info, give me some more information. But if there was somebody who was the traffic cop, the red light, green light, that could help determine what course of action this guy should and could take, and if he did it, okay, come on, let me hold your hand. We're going to go down this way. You didn't do it, and here's why it didn't happen the way it did. All right, let me put that hat on. Let me help guide you along that way over there, and that could begin the appeal process. But you have to tell him what that means. He has to be able to do this, 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 and this. And will that work? No, I don't have that. I don't have that evidence that I can then provide for that. Well, then you're not going to pass. Okay. It's not going to work. They're not going to find in your favor. So now let's go down the other path again. So if there was a way for somebody to be somebody who could be the traffic cop, red light, green light, and help a shop figure out which pathway works for them, I think that would be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Bud. Yep, we'll take that under advisement. A lot of discussions with our legal counsel on what we can and cannot do. We'll have to talk to them on these recommendations. Anything else before I go? Anthony, did you have another question, comment?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Patrick. I want to echo the comments that have been made about how appreciative we are in the industry, that amount of work and effort that you have trying to build this out. I'm just one of the issues it seems to be is the confidentiality component and the wrestling with that. I'm just wondering how, if you're just waiting in the hearing for the applicant to or the appellant or the licensee to bring up the fact that, like, they're bringing up the necessary facts, it doesn't seem like that's a success. You're not setting yourself up for success if you're not able to actually really adjudicate the process or like facilitate the process unless they happen to just stumble on the right set of words during the process.
Yeah, well, to clarify that, right, it's, we just don't know, right? So, the first one, it was a paperwork, not supplying paperwork to bars as required, right? And so, it was, whatever the code was, and okay, well, I don't know what that is. So, and I didn't have a chance to look it up beforehand because it wasn't supplied to me, right? So I didn't know. And then, as Jack said, the ARD started talking about the customer issue and how they solved the customer issue and all of that. And it's like, well, that's not the problem, right? Finally got around to talking about the paperwork when, prodded by, I can't remember his name now. Koss, yeah. A little bit to get them on direction. It's, oh, okay. So you didn't supply paperwork. Okay. But at that now, I still don't, I didn't have the enough background at that point to say more information questions, right? So we're getting there.
Yeah, it seems like there's teething pains here that like we're just trying to resolve it. It seems it seems like everyone that was part of it agrees that was not the most efficient way to address that. So I appreciate the work that's being done to help move the process along. So the panelists hopefully come in having a better idea of what's going on, understanding
so the
limitations that you have.
The waiting for them to respond after a lot of discussion, the way we approached the first one, which we learned from, and through some additional discussion made changes. That did happen in the first conference, in which we approached it in the manner, because we couldn't provide information up front and we're trying to figure out, like I said, all that. So originally it was advised to just give them the stage or give them the floor and speak. We did add on some of that, and we since added on. So even in the second one, there was more to it. It wasn't just, all right, the floor is yours. There was, that there was a citation issued on such and such date for this section of law, which states in part, and we would state the section. We didn't get into specificity of you're in violation of this section for this reason, but we did specify the section of law. The panel members were provided with the sections of law, and that way they could review the law itself, any corresponding sections that either give authority or may touch on the reason for the citation, but they had the full section, the specific section that the violation occurred under, so that they could do all their research on at least that aspect of it. Then when we introduced each of the citations, we went into that type of introduction, at least of the section of law that it pertained to. But then it was still up to them to divulge the level of information that they wanted to present information to the panel. And we do explain to them, it's your opportunity to present information to the panel for them to take into consideration as to whether or not the citation was issued correctly, should be modified or dismissed. And we try to explain that. I would encourage, if you want to get a better understanding of this, sit in on one of them and see. I think we have some better information, or a slightly different approach, again, from learning from this, on how we can still better guide the ARD without divulging too much information. And I can assure you it's going to continue to change as we go through and as we get advice on how to proceed, so that we are taking all of these factors into consideration and just continue to better our product.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the questions. Any advisory group members listening in via the WebEx? Moderator, could you ask for us? Thank you.
Certainly. Are there any WebEx attending council members who'd like to make a comment? Don't see any comments. Shall we open it up for public comment?
Yeah, I'll do so with first in the room here. Any comments on this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll go to the WebEx.
All right, and if anyone would like to make a comment on the presentation, you can look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand, or you can look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment into the text box and click send. Any comments on the presentation? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, look forward to the next conference on the 14th of November. All right, okay. Thank you, Patrick, for the presentation. Yeah. All right, our next two presentations are from Denise Cunningham, Cars for Schools program, and then she'll follow it up after we close that agenda item. We'll We'll do the Consumer Assistance Program overview and update. Welcome, Denise.
Good morning. I think it's still morning. Yeah. So I'm glad I brought my written notes. I didn't realize this would be behind me, so Zach will have to make sure we do this. So on the Cars for Schools program, it's been a while since we talked about it. So I'm going to give an overview, a little bit of an overview, give you an idea what the current status of the program is, and then share what I think is some fairly exciting news that at least it will be exciting to educators in the audience, because we might be able to provide a little bit more help with this. So just an overview, basically the program provides retired CAP vehicles to publicly funded automotive technical training programs that are operated by high schools, community colleges, and regional occupational programs. And subject to availability, the schools may request a lot of different options: year, make, model of vehicle desired, whether it's manual transmission, automatic, whether the mode of power, whether it's diesel, gas, or hybrid, and other options. The difficulties that the schools face is the more specific they get, the longer it's going to take for them to get their vehicle. That is in general what the program is about. I think we want the next slide. So just a little bit about the history and the current status. The program was actually initiated based on recommendations made by this panel, and I think it was back in 2018. It was one of the panel or one of the
It was Alyssa from the California New Car Dealers Association. She came up with it. This is her baby. It was her idea, and it's turned into something.
Yes, yes. Cool. I mean, when I'll tell you, I was watching when that idea was presented, and I think there were several of us watching from BAR and at CAP and specifically, and our feeling was, wow, this is a great idea. Why didn't we think about this? Really helpful. So it was mentioned first in 2018. We finally got it going in January 2020, just in time for COVID. We got about 12 vehicles out, or vehicles out to 12 schools before we had to stop due to the pandemic. And we resumed in July 2022. Currently, there's 51 schools that have signed memorandums of understanding with BAR. 17 of those are community colleges, 30 are high schools, and 4 are regional occupational programs. So far, since July of 22, we've distributed around 110 vehicles to schools. We've had about 14 returned since July of 22. So there's about 96 vehicles that are currently assigned to schools, and 11 of those assigned vehicles are hybrids. So we're trying to get as much newer technology out there as we can. Although hybrids is becoming older technology, it's still new for many schools, particularly high schools. So I think now we will go to the next slide, and this is just to give you an idea of where the schools are. As I mentioned, there's 51 of them, and they're spread basically from Yuba City down through Imperial County. And in fact, we do have one of the schools is in Imperial. It's a wide range throughout the state. The next slide, if you would, Zach. Just so you know, there's this graph just represents the number of vehicles that are actually, or the number of schools that operate in or near disadvantaged communities. And, this is something that we try and keep track of, that the legislature is interested in. It, particularly the high schools having opportunities for vocational education and in those areas at that level, I think is good. That's good throughout the state. And so that's just some information. Any school that comes to us, if they're a public school, we try to help them. It doesn't matter where they are. This is just information on how it kind of lays now. There's a little note there about the how we're defining disadvantaged communities, and it's just for reference. There's a lot of different ways of defining that, and schools have a variety of different ways themselves. We're just using we're just determining, are the schools in or near what's defined as a disadvantaged community by, there's a specific law that SB 535 that required Cal EPA to designate disadvantaged areas, and they use a variety of criteria for that. So now we get to the more exciting part. I think the last time I presented at this meeting, we mentioned that a lot of the schools, their biggest problem is with the transportation of vehicles. There's a lot of red tape involved in getting funds from the district to have an instructor go out and get a trailer, rent a trailer, or pay for a tow truck or something like that. It's difficult for many of the teachers to do it. So we looked for various ways to try and deal with this, and basically determined that we're going to try and assemble a network of partners to provide voluntary or no cost or low cost transportation for the schools when needed. And I'm really very excited to report that our first partner and big partner in this, given the size of the organization, was Automobile Club of Southern California, has agreed to perform some vehicle transports based on the school location and based on their availability, their business needs, and the distance traveled, et cetera. In developing this partnership, I want to thank Megan McKernan. I've been trying to reach out to folks, and Pat had suggested Megan, and I sent out an email and appreciate the fact that she was right all over it and got it handled within days. And then, the responses from other folks at AAA there, or rather Southern Auto Club of SoCal, that really everything has been very professional. It's so far things have worked very well. And so we're trying to, I should say that 3 vehicles have already been transported at no charge to one school. Efforts are underway to recruit additional partners in Northern California, and also kind of backups as well, because I think one of the things that we have to be cognizant of is that any of the partners we may have they don't exist solely to support the Cars for Schools program. They have businesses to run, et cetera. And so if one partner isn't able to do it, we hope to have some backup. Anyway, just once again, thank you to the Auto Club for that. And so as far as plans for future improvement, we are going to continue to outreach to increase the number of participating schools. As you guys noticed from the map, there is nobody in the north of Yuba City. Not quite sure why that's happened that way. We've done some outreach. We'll continue to do more. I think one of the things that has kept some schools from participating is they know that they don't have, aren't going to be able to handle the transportation. So I do want to emphasize with this transportation assistance, I should say that the schools are still responsible for vehicle transport. They will, any arrangements for vehicle transport will be made between the schools and us, because I don't want to overwhelm our partners with this, where they're getting, lots of calls, kind of outside of or at least with BAR out of the loop. And part of the reason for that is they may be getting calls when cars aren't available, and it would be kind of a mess. So we are asking the schools, the way we're handling it is when they're telling us that they have a vehicle that they want and it becomes available, we're asking them if we happen to have a partner in the area that's willing to do some transport, we're asking them, okay, are you okay to transport the vehicle, or are you going to be able to pick it up? Do you have a trailer? Whatever. Do you need help? And if they need help, then we'll check with our partner, whatever partner it is, and see if they can provide assistance. If they can, great. If they can't, it's back on the school to do the transportation. So I kind of stepped back there for a little bit because I realized I forgot about it. So plans for future improvement, a couple other items. We intend to continue efforts to recruit transportation partners, and we want to continue collaborating with educators and the industry itself on ways to improve the program. So some of these ideas for transportation, they came from the schools when we did surveys and so forth. And so we're going to be continuing to reach out to them. And I think that wraps it up for this presentation.
All right. Any questions or comments? Yeah, Anthony.
Thank you so much, Denise. This is a wonderful program. So happy to see it develop in the way that it has. I just wanted to offer a potential connection. We do have a foundation, a CNCDA foundation that is specifically designed to promote auto education. Its primary goal is to raise money for a scholarship program, but we do have auto tech fairs and direct relationships with auto tech programs throughout the state that are run by community colleges, et cetera. So happy to connect you with the leader of our foundation. That might be a good point of contact and potential a person to explore ideas on transportation assistance on transportation and any other type of needs for this program that really maximize its effectiveness. So thank you so much for your hard work.
All right, thank you, and we'll give you a call.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Additional, Dave?
Thank you, Denise. The cars that go to the school, how long do they stay at the school?
They can stay there for up to 3 years.
Okay.
We have to turn the vehicles around by the end of each 3-year contract with the dismantlers, because the dismantlers are obviously, they make money on these vehicles, just crushing them for scrap metal. We don't let them sell parts on them, but as you know, the metal is quite expensive, and so they make they make money on it, and so we're actually when we ask them to defer providing crushing cars and 10 vehicles a year to the schools for each dismantler site. That's actually, they're having to wait to get that extra money that they get from crushing the car.
That was my next question. What happens to the car afterwards? But yeah, okay.
Yeah, it does have to be crushed.
Okay.
And you know, we committed to Air Resources Board when we talked to them about this, that, you know, no parts would be sold off of the vehicles. They wouldn't be driven on public roads. So that's all part of our memorandum of understanding with the schools.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah, just real quick, Denise, thank you for your presentation. I went to De Anza College and we had one of these cars over there at De Anza. And we got it because it fell off of a transport truck. That's how we ended up with it. Is that where these cars are coming from? Yeah. Is that where these cars are coming from? There's something happened to these cars and they're not going to be sold to the public. So that's how schools get them. Is that where they come from?
Well, as far as our cars, there's different programs as you can imagine that would supply cars to the schools, but our program is really just taking retired CAP vehicles, which are retired by individual consumers. Businesses can't retire through the Consumer Assistance Program. So they're individual consumers' cars, and they were either cars that failed the smog check, or they were simply old cars that the owner felt it was worthwhile to take the incentive that we provide. And so typically, you know, obviously we're not going to get pristine cars that somebody's going to take to us to retire. But we do work with the schools to try and select vehicles that would be useful to them. First of all, they provide us a sheet with or a spreadsheet that explains what kind of cars they want, what they're looking for specifically. And it really varies. Sometimes they want really old cars. Any rate, they supply us with that information. When we find a car, we talk to the school. We see, are you still interested in this? If they are, we ask the dismantler to hold it and work on the process of getting a non-revivable junk receipt. When that happens, one of our auditors, we have auditors go out in the field and inspect these dismantlers all the time. One of our auditors will actually inspect the vehicle and, you know, try and start it, you know, that type of thing, and make sure it still works. And, you know, if we see anything that's really odd or deficient, we'll try and explain that to the teacher. Yeah.
I noticed Megan with the Automobile Club of Southern California had to leave, and she told me she was going to have to leave early. But again, a huge shout out to Megan and the club's partnership with us and stepping up to the plate, so to speak. Yeah. Additional comments from advisory group members attending through the WebEx platform.
And a reminder, advisory group members online can unmute yourselves as you choose. I don't see any further requests for comment from them.
Okay, we'll open it up for public comment. Anyone in the room? Seeing no hands, we'll go to the virtual.
If anyone would like to make a comment on the presentation, you can look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand, or you can look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment into the text box and click send. Any comments on the Cars for Schools? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close public comment feature?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, that closes that agenda item. We'll move right along to our agenda item number 8. Denise, again, you didn't get to leave the chair yet. Give us an update on an overview of the Consumer Assistance Program and the changes we're going through with some of the new regulations that were just adopted and will take effect on January 1.
Okay, and so much the same here, just a very brief overview and some updates on the changes that have been going on with this program. First of all, if you could do the next slide, please. Okay. So our mission is just in a nutshell, it's to support air pollution control efforts by subsidizing the repair of high polluting vehicles and incentivizing the retirement of high polluting vehicles. Another objective here is, or goal is, to assist consumers whose vehicles have failed the smog check, especially low-income consumers who tend to be disproportionately impacted by the program's requirements. So that's kind of the idea behind the program. It's been around for 25 years now, and will be coming up here. It's I think the low-income repair assistance program actually kicked off in '99, so we are at 25 years. So the current programs and the changes as far as repair assistance goes, which is mainly what affects the folks in this room.
Next slide. Next slide. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And so we have repair assistance is open to income eligible consumers only. It's, I believe, under 225% of the poverty level, federal poverty level. And it's the consumer needs to have failed a biennial smog inspection. If they meet that criteria, they apply and so forth. Starting in on 1/1/25, a couple months here, motorists may participate more than once with the same vehicle. Currently, they can't participate more than once with the same vehicle, but starting in January, they can. Currently, we provide up to 1,200 emission-related repairs for 1996 and newer vehicles. As of the first of the year, that's going to go up to 1,450. It's about a 20% increase. And for 95 and older vehicles, we currently provide 900 emission-related repairs. That's going up to 1,100 at the start of the year. For vehicle retirement, that is available only for, or at least one of the programs available only for vehicles failing the last smog check. And for that, income eligible consumers currently receive $1,500. Starting on January 1st, they'll receive up to $2,000. For other consumers who are not income eligible, whose vehicles fail the smog check, we currently provide an incentive of $1,000. Starting on January 1st, that's going to go up to $1,350. And these changes were for repair assistance. The increase was based on changes in the Consumer Price Index for motor vehicle maintenance and repair, and the changes between 2020 and now. And for vehicle retirement, it was based on the Consumer Price Index for used cars and trucks. And that change, we looked at the change from 2011 to current. So for repair assistance, it was about 20%. For vehicle retirement, given the huge spike in used car prices, that was up about a little over 30%. So as far as we do have one other program for vehicle retirement, the Enhanced Fleet Modernization Program, and that targets just older vehicles in general. They don't have to fail the smog check. And that the incentive on that is not increasing. So that'll stay at 1,500. So basically, we're going to have incentives of 1,350, 1,500, and 2,000 based on a variety of criteria. Let's see here. And I think yep, there we go. Right slide. So for just some of the stats for what we're currently doing for the repair assistance program, last fiscal year we repaired about 4,500 vehicles, 4,585. Average repair invoice is about $846. For the vehicle retirement programs in general, all of them together, we retired about 21,575 vehicles. And for that, as I mentioned, the dismantlers make money on this, and we do competitive bidding. So our contracts, on average, they end up paying us about $306 per vehicle. And obviously we're paying out $1,500 in incentives, so we're getting back $306. So it does minimize or lowers our costs. So that's a good thing. And so participation trends, repair assistance has been trending upward since 2020 regulation changes that had increased the contribution amounts from 500 up to the current 900 and 1,200. So it's been trending upward. Vehicle retirement, all the programs have been trending downward since 2020 due to increases in used car prices. There's just, as everybody knows, there was a massive increase in used car prices starting in around July of 2020. Participation is expected to increase for repair assistance and vehicle retirement due to the upcoming incentive increases. This EFMP program, the participation is not really expected to change. It will go sideways to slightly down, possibly. And I did bring some charts, so we don't have to get too much into numbers. If you could, Zach, move it forward. So you can see, as far as the vehicle repair assistance program, we were trending downward in participation pretty steeply up through 2020. When the regulations changed there, we've been gradually moving back up. So we're repairing a few more vehicles than we were repairing back in 2016. So I guess we're making progress. It's flattened out a little bit because there was that 20% increase in the consumer price index between 2020 and now. So prices raised pretty steeply there too. So that's where we are with that. If you could move to the next slide. Just some interesting information on the types of vehicles that come in for repair. Only about 6%, 7% of our vehicles are pre-96. So very few of them. The most common vehicles right now that we're repairing at over 20% were actually 2005 to 2007 models. And as you can see, it's kind of a an almost normal curve there as far as the distribution goes. So that's it for that. We'll move ahead to, excuse me, vehicle retirement. As you can see, starting in 2021, the participation kind of dropped off a cliff there. We were retiring about 50 to 53,000 vehicles a year, and it dropped down to our current at around 23. I don't really expect to get back up to 50,000 a year. We're going to be paying more money, and we have a limited amount of funds. So I'm hoping that we'll get back up into the 40,000 range, but we'll see if we get there. And the next slide, please. And once again, you can see the distribution pattern on as far as model years retired, and the model years that with maximum retirements at this point are a little bit older than the repaired vehicles. They're 2002 to 2004. And that's where we are with that. We do, surprisingly enough, have a number or a few 2014 and newer vehicles that have been retired. And Zach, if you could go to the next slide, please. So plans for improvement. Our goal is really to make it easier for stations to participate in the repair assistance program. And that's probably the thing that's most related to this audience here. We want to modernize some of our processes, most notably the repair notification and billing processes. I'd like to get them I'd like to get those online eventually if I could, and make it easier for shops to both notify us of the repairs that they need to perform, and also get us the invoices so we can pay them quicker. Next goal would be, so we need to make it easy, and we also want to recruit more stations. The things changed, the statute changed, and regulations changed. Their cap or star stations are no longer required to be cap stations. And that was something that we advocated in cap, because we actually felt that the mandate for stations to participate probably harmed us more than it helped us. There was a lot of folks who didn't want to be involved, and they didn't, they didn't really want to represent us and represent the program. So it was harder for them. And I think for us, what we're looking for in the station recruitment is to find stations to explain what it takes to go through the process, and try to find folks who feel it might be worth their while to work with us. And there are many stations that work with us and do fairly well on it. And there's other stations that they do it more as what they feel is a public service, and they may take an occasional car here or there. Our goal is to find more, encourage more participation from all of those shops. Let's see here. And I think that is, I think that's it.
One more slide, I think. One more slide, yeah.
Was there one more slide?
Yeah.
Did I not get it here?
Feedback from and outreach.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't print that. See, I didn't print it out. So we do want to get feedback from consumers and industry. I actually hired put in a new position for somebody to actually work on putting together surveys, and doing statistical analysis of where we're lacking in stations and so forth. And so I want to get we definitely want to hear back from stations and hear what they like about the program, what they don't like, what's the deal killer for them on it, why they might not want to participate. And the consumer surveys, the same thing. We have there's a lot of consumers who get a letter of eligibility and then never use it. And we want to find out more about why that happens. And then lastly, our goal is to outreach, more outreach to low-income motorists. And there we're just continuing with outreach to community-based organizations.
Thank you, Denise. Excellent two presentations there about your various programs. And I wanted to say one other thing, that the regulations that were adopted and take effect on January 1 allows us to adjust for CPI without having to go through the regulatory process, which can be a painstaking process, and allows us, those regulations allow us to adjust every 3 years.
It's every 3 years.
Based on CPI? Yeah.
Yes, first time starting in 2028.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yes.
That's an important development for us, and it'll make it a much easier and seamless process, I think, by communication of those new amounts or incentives that will take place in 2025 and then 2028. Let's open it up for comments. Yeah, Anthony.
Thanks again, Denise. I'm just wondering about, because when I think about the total number of new vehicles that are sold in the state, it's typically between 1.5 and 2 million, 1.5 million to 2 million a year annually. And that, even though say the average age of a vehicle that is being retired is 20 years, like around 20 years, I assume that 20 years ago we produced roughly the same or sold roughly the same amount of vehicles, maybe a little bit less, but so there's a little bit more than 1 million 20-year-old model year vehicles. And just wondering what type of customer is taking advantage of this program, or these programs to retire their vehicles, because it's the numbers, although it's a fantastic program for the folks that take advantage of it, there seems to be a lot of customers that might just not be aware of the program. And even with higher used vehicle prices, perhaps depressing usage or the retirements under the program, there's still a lot of folks that don't seem to be, that might be retiring their vehicles, but just not taking advantage of the program. And wondering what your thoughts are, on that, and on the issue of raising customer awareness of the program generally, to get more vehicles to go through this program and have lower income customers take advantage of the program benefits.
Okay. Well, I think I can answer it. There's several issues. First of all, historically, this hasn't been a problem for us between this, as I said, this 25-year-old program. Between 2007, 8, and 2020, we were oversubscribed every year. So we didn't have to advertise the program, and other than just having information on our website and so forth, there were advertisements from time to time as new options came up. But in general, there was a big awareness of it, at least big enough to actually use up all our funds. So we would run out of money in March or April consistently every year. So it's a newer problem for us. It started around 2020. And most of that I'm tying to the used car prices. And my thought is that many of those who were low income, who had when they looked at the option of going through our program, and selling the vehicle during those periods, even if weren't great vehicles, people were getting a lot of money for it. And so they had better options. And also, once it became less popular, or there were fewer people doing it, then there was less word of mouth to keep it going. And so I do think that we are in a position now where we have to find ways to reach out to our audience, and our audience really is low income consumers. But for the vehicle retirement programs, there's also a significant portion of just normal working folks with regular incomes. 1350 is a lot better than 1,000 was. So we do expect things will pick up a little bit. And we do think we're going to have to reach out to that audience more than we did before. Right now, we've been trying, as I mentioned, to work with community-based organizations to target those that are lower income populations. We're probably going to have to do some other things, but we didn't want to do a lot till we got the new regulations out, and hopefully we can do kind of sell the program a little bit better.
Thank you very much. And along those lines, that we worked, or our association worked with the New Motor Vehicle Board and Tim Corcoran, who's the head of the New Motor Vehicle Board, on raising awareness of the Takata airbag recall among low-income individuals in targeted communities in California, and specifically non-English speaking lower income individuals in California. So that happy to help facilitate that connection. It sounds like it might not even be necessary, but the New Motor Vehicle Board might be an entity that is, I don't want to speak for them, but they certainly have taken an interest in raising awareness of government programs or government related programs that benefit lower income individuals. I know it's part of their strategic mission to try to really focus in on disadvantaged communities in California, and getting them resources that they need related to motoring. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you. And if you don't, if that was an offer to perhaps call you and pick your brain on some of this.
Always happy to talk, Denise, and I appreciate you allowing me to pick your brain too. A couple of years back, when we were wrestling with some of these retirement issues and related to elevated used vehicle prices, is really helpful to talk to you about those issues. So thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you, Anthony. Anyone else? How about online? Or excuse me, with the WebEx moderator?
And it looks like we have a raised hand from Ruben Para.
Hi, Denise. Just a question on the vehicle retirement. You mentioned that it would be it says failed current smog. Does that mean that it needs to be in the current smog cycle? The vehicle has been registered for this whole time, failed smog, and then they'll qualify for retirement? Or does that also apply to maybe a vehicle that has maybe the customer has sat on? And because I know customers or consumers that have vehicles that lack of money, lack of motivation, they've sat on for a while and they don't know what to do with the vehicle. They don't want to have it crushed, but if they could get a little bit of money, that might motivate them to get it out of their driveway.
Right. Well, I can give you some information on it.
If you could use the microphone.
Sorry
Thank
about that. So I can give you some information on it. The regulations required for vehicle retirement, that there's two programs, as I mentioned. The one that requires that you fail a smog check, you have to have failed a smog check within 180 days. It does not have to be a biennial smog check. So it just needs to have failed its last smog check And then for our the enhanced fleet modernization program, you can apply for that program, pass or fail. The one thing that is consistent, though, with all of these programs is that since the vehicle is being retired for the purpose of reducing, it is an emission control program, or there's that component to it. So all the vehicles, the programs either require that they are currently registered, or that the registration has not been expired for more than 120 days. That is on the program with that requires the failed smog check. On the enhanced fleet modernization program, you do not, the vehicle does not have to fail a smog check. It does have to have a smog check within 180 days. And it also, it can either be registered, currently registered, or not expired more than 120 days, or they can provide proof of operation in California. So in other words, provide proof that they were driving without registration. And obviously we're not DMV, so we're not, that's not, nobody's going to get on them about that. But what we're looking for is, are these, say, low-income folks who basically have been driving these things without the ability to, or because they're driving them, but they couldn't get a smog check. They couldn't complete the registration for one reason or another. Since they're being driven, it's worth our while to get them off the road. And it ends up in a net reduction in emissions if we can do that. So that is permitted, and they could either supply us proof of insurance for the past couple of years, or repair invoices from a licensed or registered ARD showing that they actually had service work done in the past couple of years. But once again, the whole idea behind this is we don't want to retire. It wouldn't make any sense to retire a vehicle that had been growing weeds in somebody's backyard. There's no emission benefit from that. So we don't, as a matter of policy, as a matter of regulation, there has to be either current registration, registration that wasn't too long ago expired, or finally some proof of operation in California over the past couple of years.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Any other comments? Okay, we'll open it up for public comments on this agenda item. None in the room that I see. How about on the WebEx?
This is the moderator. If anyone would like to make a comment on the presentation, you can look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand, or you can look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment in the text box and click send. Are there any comments on the presentation? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, thank you, moderator.
You're welcome.
All right, Denise, thank you very much for the presentations, and we'll move on to our next agenda items. I think we've got about 20 some odd minutes before we're expected to adjourn. Thank you, Denise. We're going to take the next two together, combine them as we normally do. They're handouts only, the enforcement statistics and licensing statistics quarterly updates on those two programs. Any public comments? We'll include advisory group members in that. No one in the room. I don't see anyone. How about on the WebEx for agenda items number 9 and 10, the two handouts?
First off, are there any WebEx advisory group members with comments? And seeing none, I think we can move to public comment.
Mhm.
And are there any WebEx attendees who would like to comment on the handouts for the enforcement licensing statistics? You can raise your hand you can click the hand icon to raise your hand, or you can click on the question mark icon, type the word comment into the text box and click send. And I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, please. We'll go right back into it though.
Yep.
Agenda item number 11 for public comment on items that were not on the agenda today. Anything of it from anyone here in the room? Not seeing anything, so we'll do that as well on the WebEx.
And before that, I will go ahead and recognize council member. My apologies.
Advisor group, yep.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I had to unmute
Jeff.
myself. Chef Peavy. I had mentioned in the introduction that I oversee some collision repair advisory groups. And there was something brought up, a couple of different shops brought it up, and they asked me to mention it. Doesn't have to be an answer today, but something certainly worth some thought anyway. And it seems that of course, collision repair segment of the automotive industry is fairly dependent on insurance pay for a lot of the work they do. And recently, there's been some insurers who have shops that are on direct repair programs that have told those shops that they want the scans and the calibrations as they appear on an estimate with their pricings to simply use a level to describe the calibration, like a level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever. And some of the shops are saying, well, that wouldn't really be in compliance with bar regulations. And so I guess the question is, if a shop were to document an estimate with a level 1 calibration, would that comply with any regulations, or do they need to be more specific with what is being calibrated? Whether it be an advanced emergency braking or blind spot calibration or whatever, because some of the insurers have levels 1 through 3, some have 1 through 5, and it's not always clear. So I was asked to bring that forward.
Thank you, Jeff. I think you had asked the question through Zach the other day, if I'm not mistaken, and I think we were trying to get a response to you in advance of today's meeting. I'm looking for, it'd be easiest if I just pull up that email. Hold on a minute.
Yeah, it's just really just about, definitions and clarity on the estimate. And so the shops just don't want to, in compliance with something an insurer is asking for, to not be meeting some bar regulation.
So I'm thinking this is in response to the email you sent through Zach.
That was a little bit higher level question that I asked. This one was a little bit more specific, probably.
Yeah, I think your question to Zach, I could. I'm pulling it up on my email. Yeah, you said you said, I wanted to forward a question from the industry for consideration. Does any definition exist within the bar work on what proper documentation should be for a collision repair estimate, especially for calibrations? More and more, the collision repair industry is needing to vehicles they are repairing to have their ADAS or advanced driver assistance systems calibrated. A
Yeah.
definition of
Sorry, I wrote that on my phone.
No, I got you. I go through the same challenges with my thumbs and fingers typing out messages. A definition of what proper documentation for calibrations should be, as it could be very helpful for the industry, including interactions between multiple segments such as insurers, third-party providers, etc. Thanks in advance. And the response, I don't know if it got back to you, but I think it bears reading it. If you did get it, great. If not, here's drafted a response. It says auto body or collision repair estimate requirements are recorded in California Code of Regulations, Title 16, Section 3353B, Subdivision B. That section requires an automotive repair dealer or ARD to provide the consumer with an itemized, I'm emphasizing that word, itemized estimate containing the estimated price for parts and labor to perform the necessary repairs. That section also contains requirements for the description of replacement crash part, here's my typing wrong, crash part description, but that's a description of replacement crash parts. For example, OEM, non-OEM, etc., but does not contain specific requirements for labor descriptions. Such as you've pointed out for calibrations. Other than that, parts and labor must be listed separately. So if an ARD wishes to obtain a customer's authorization to calibrate an advanced driver assistance system or systems as part of a collision repair, the ARD must record the specific system or systems to be calibrated separately on the itemized estimate with the estimated price for that calibration or calibrations. Now, I don't know if you went into a little different, you said you went a little higher level or maybe a little deeper in your question today, but I hope that answered at least your email.
Okay.
Your email.
You said it was 16 section 3353B.
3353B. Yeah.
Okay.
Title 16. That's the title that all Bureau of Automotive Repair regulations are contained in the mass California Code of Regulations for all state agencies. But we're in Title 16. Section 3353B. Yep. Hope that helps.
Yeah, and I'll take it back and see if there's any other discussion. And if there is any other detail, I'll bring it back. I'll send you some information.
Yeah, that'd be great. And we're always happy to do a webinar or some kind of seminar or Q&A session if that's of help to the industry and your members.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other public comment on items not on the agenda? Gene Lopez. We hardly knew he was here. Here he is, though.
Thank you for recognizing me. And thank you, Jeff Peavy, for bringing this subject up. So
introduction, though, for everybody.
Gene Lopez with Sidner's Collision Center.
Thank you.
So as Jeff mentioned in his text to you or to Zach, it seems that insurers and DRP environments are requesting levels of calibration. So, and I'm not quite certain how this looks, but let's say if it was level 1, it would be calibration of a camera in a windshield. Level 2 would be calibration of that same camera, and it may also include a radar for assistance in braking or cruise control. Level 3 would add to that the number of calibrations that are taking place. To have that on an estimate, we have to describe the calibration that takes place. And sometimes it may take more than one attempt. For example, on a dynamic calibration where you're taking the vehicle out onto the road and you have to get to a specific miles per hour for a specific amount of time for the calibration to take place. That might happen 2 or 3 times. And now we have to let the consumer know, our customer know, that we drove your vehicle and we added 60 miles to your vehicle because there were 3 attempts at calibrating the dynamic calibration that took place. We need to learn the best way to have that on an estimate. I don't know that it would be one line item. I don't know that it would be one line item for level 1, 2, and 3 that an insurer may be describing. So as we look at calibration and the ADAS systems that require the calibration, perhaps we should have a workshop that would inform everyone on the best way to line item these calibration procedures.
It's a good request. Thank you.
Yep.
I like it. And, we talked previously about the Write It Right, and maybe there's some help or guidance we can give with respect to this in the Write It Right that's always evolving, or it's constantly changing. All right. Thank you. Additional comment on the public comment for any items not on the agenda? Moderator?
And if anyone on WebEx would like to suggest an item that was not on this agenda that you'd like to see on a future agenda, you can click the hand icon to raise your hand, or you can click on the question mark icon, type the word comment in that text box, and then click send. Any suggestions for future agenda items that were not on this agenda? And I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we are in the end. I'm about to adjourn here, but before we do, we've got to announce our next bar advisory group meeting. That will be on Thursday, January 30th. Boy, I can't believe I'm already saying 2025, halfway through the decade here. But we will be having our next meeting. I'm not sure if it'll be in this room. Stay tuned for an announcement to confirm that date, January 30th, as well as the actual room. It may be here. It may be back at Department of Consumer Affairs headquarters based on room availability. And while I'm at it, I need to just put a placeholder. These are always subject to change, but to give you the calendar year schedule for 2025's Bar Advisory Group meetings. And we'll look to do a regulatory workshop at a couple of these, if not more, depending on the status of regulations. January 30th, I've already announced. April 24th, July 31st, and October 23rd. Again, those are subject to change, and room availability and announcement where that meeting will be in person, take place in person, will be all described in the agendas that go out at least 10 days before the meeting. But those are the meeting dates that we tentatively have scheduled for next year. They are posted on the website? Good. Thank you. And Zach wrote, they'll all be at DCA HQ2, hopefully, but no promises. All right. I think that's it. We have a regulatory workshop that'll begin in this room and via WebEx at 2 p.m. Sharp. We scheduled it because we've been going over. We scheduled them for an hour and a half. The first 2 workshops, we scheduled them for 2 hours. I think we've resolved most of the issues in our minds. There may be some other additional ones to discuss and work through, but I'm hoping we can get out closer to an hour and a half. We'll see. Again, another finger crossing request there or expectation. But we'll meet here in the room at 2 o'clock. Have a good lunch and have a good rest of the day. Have a great fall. We'll see you for the next Bar Advisory Group meeting in January. Thank you.
And this is the moderator. This session will continue at 2 o'clock. You do not need to log out, but if you do, you will need to log back in using the same address, the same link. Thank you.